So I'm using blue switches now, so I get to be extra loud for you. How do you feel about that? All right. I see us on YouTube. I see us on Twitch. Let me announce to the community that we're live. It'll be great. All right, huge. I haven't published it yet, in case you're wondering. Hey Ginu, how's it going? How's it going? How's it going? All right, we'll let people kind of trickle in here for a moment. Give people a little bit of time. I'm excited, you guys. Excited, nervous. I think it's really fun. I haven't really done anything like this on my channel before. I'm going to be going over just like what's up. Going to be going over what's up in the tech space. And I did a little bit of research as well to kind of dive deeper on some of these topics. I'm excited. I think it's going to be really interesting. Yeah. Hey guys, welcome in. Hey Texas. Hey tea. Actually, speaking of tea, I think I gave myself food poisoning yesterday from tea. But like, not because it was bad, but because I drank too much tea, which is crazy. I've never had that happen before. It was actually wild. I was like not okay the whole day. It was crazy. Yeah, tea, it's all your fault. That's so mean of you. Dead air, how's it going, Miguel? I'm in dark mode, so I can't even see it. Kaz, Monsiego, Daniel, Diago, Looter, Mario, HTTP, Boogdan, Trevor. I know, drink milk tea, or mint tea, sorry. Yeah, I know, I died. So like PSA, don't drink too much jasmine tea specifically. It'll like change the acidity of your stomach somehow. Isn't that crazy? Hello? What the heck? I hope Deno, what's Deno? Are you saying demo, like demographics? Yeah, honestly, almost got absolutely taken down by little T. Alrighty, I'm gonna mute this tab so we can see what YouTube chat is saying. Hi YouTube chat as well. I hope you're all having a beautiful day. Happy Monday. How much did I have? Okay, I did not read the box, so I didn't realize it was a caffeinated tea. I probably had like a liter of tea. Because it felt nice. And then it wasn't nice. Yeah, I had like a liter of jasmine tea, and then my stomach just felt like it was like burning for the rest of the day. Like I actually had to like lie down. I like couldn't move. Like I was like, if I move too much, it's coming up. It was really bad. So heads up, don't drink too much jasmine tea. Okay, PSA. Uh-oh. Yeah. Real, thank you so much for subscribing 3 months in advance. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Are you guys excited? Are you guys ready? Do you want to hear the topics that we're going over today? We're going to be touching on the trends in languages. We're going to touch a little bit on gender distribution, and I will give my womanly perspective on this issue. I did some research as well to kind of try and provide some actionable solutions to that. So I think that'll be really interesting. We'll be touching on AI, which you guys know I'm not a huge AI girly, but I will admit after reading this report, it did give me some different ideas on ways that you can leverage AI that does make more sense. Like I'm not a huge fan of like code generation with AI. I feel like I don't want to lose my muscle memory for like coding. So I've always steered away from it just because I am newer in the space. Like it's not like I'm a senior dev or something. Like maybe then I would be a little bit less cautious about it, but I want to have a certain amount of like muscle memory and like, you know, this is what I need to type next. like thinking about it instead of just having the answer show up. Do you know what I mean? I like to have a little bit of space between like, what do I need to do? And here's what I need to do, you know? So I haven't used AI much, but I'm really excited to actually touch on this one because it really did change my perspective on ways that we can use it as developers without it just being like code generation. And then we're also going to be touching on some of the learning related metrics in the developer ecosystem report. The job market, which I know a lot of you, it's a hot topic, okay? The job market, and then health and wellness. So that's the game plan for today. And today's stream is actually sponsored, which is wild. You guys know I'm very particular with my sponsorships. I've only ever done one other sponsored stream with Microsoft. And that was because it was like Microsoft X Charm kind of thing. So, yes, I do find like AIs often you're being spoon-fed answers. Sometimes the right answer, sometimes not. So yeah, keeping that in mind. I'm also going to go into some of the details surrounding like, ways that like things that we should kind of like watch out for with AI, like things that are of concern to me, that are concerning to developers in general. So I think it'll be really, really, I'm excited. I think it'll be really cool. And so it's sponsored. You can do !sponsor if you want a link to the report. Please use that one because otherwise, if you Google it, then they won't know that you came from me. So that's my special link to show that I'm the one who introduced you to it. So if you want to support the sponsored stream, that is how. Okay. And yeah, I'm excited. And I'm really excited as well to hear all of your perspectives on this. So I might actually, I don't know if I can resize chat right now. Let me try. I'm going to make chat a little bit bigger so that you guys have a bit more room to see your answers here. So try and make that a little bit bigger. There we go. I think that makes a little more sense. But yeah, I'm super excited. I think you guys are generally pretty based. Like I've got a pretty good community here. So I think it'll be really interesting to hear your thoughts as I'm going through some of this stuff. I'll cook a bit. Nice. Enjoy. Okay. Let's shift into gear. Oh man. Okay, hold on. I got to resize chat. I got chat doubled up. Okay. Hold on. We got to go. We ignore this. Okay. Temporary technical difficulties. Hold on. Okay. All right. How do we feel? Can we read that? Is that legible? I think it's legible enough. Okay. Sick. Yeah. OBS is an adventure. I know. It's kind of funny that you can't access your scenes outside of like what's being shown on stream. So whatever. We go with this stuff. The contrast is pretty low. Okay. Maybe I'll add a color. Let me add a different color background. I think it is a little too low, isn't it? Okay. Maybe we'll make it like a navy. That'll be great. Put your sunglasses on, chat. It goes into... Oh, actually a purple color. This purple color is kind of fun. It's actually very charm. Maybe I should do a different color then. Navy. And let's make it like a little... There you go. Okay, there you go. Perfect. Look at us, huge. Look at us conquering. Absolutely conquering whatever obstacles come our way. All right, I'm proud of you, chat. If we're doing this together. We're in it together. Okay, I have a new keyboard, by the way. It's not my split keyboard, okay? All you QMK users are going to be shaming me. I haven't set up my QMK config yet. All right. Let's do this. Let's do that. There we go. Okay, I think that's a lot better. Also, I got blue switches. Let's go. Nice and loud. Okay, I'm excited. So this is the report. You can access it if you're on YouTube. It's in the description. I will be creating like an actual more concise version of this stream, but I figured I didn't want to change my settings in OBS, so you're getting it too. Yeah. Oh, the new key. Oh yeah. So sorry. Let me link to the report is in the description if you're on YouTube. If you're on Twitch, you can do / sponsor. This is, hold on, let's go back to big chatting so you can actually see. This is the keyboard. Isn't it sick? It's like a vintage style keyboard. I got it as a late Xmas Prezi. So I've been using it. It's great because it's a Bluetooth keyboard. I don't use Bluetooth on Linux, but I've got cable and Bluetooth. So I can switch between my laptop and my desktop like super easily, and I don't have to mess with it, which is huge. Yeah, so super stoked about that. Yeah, super stoked about that. Okay, now let's go into the state of the developer ecosystem by JetBrains. Okay, JetBrains is sponsoring. Thank you, JetBrains. Very cool of you. Very PogChamp, as the kids say. Okay, we're going to start with languages. I'm going to zoom it in a bit because I know y'all are blind. Okay. Get wrecked. All right. So programming, scripting, markup languages used in the 12 months, planning to adopt or migrate. Looks like people are already users of most of these things. JavaScript, Python, HTML, CSS, SQL, Java. Okay, this makes sense. Java used heavily in enterprise systems. Makes a lot of sense. SQL used in basically everything except NoSQL databases. HTML, CSS, JavaScript. We got our web devs in there. Python for automation and data science. So that makes sense that those are like the top 5. Can I count? Yeah, top 5. Cool to see that more people are looking to do Python. I feel like Python is a great language to learn for beginners, or at least it was back when I tried it in like 2018, 2016. That's when I first learned it. I think it definitely has more features since then. So hopefully that hasn't made it like a harder language to adopt for beginning. This is a survey of JetBrains software users, I assume. I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's not just JetBrains users. I think they did survey people. Like, it's just like developers in general. They wouldn't like disqualify you because you didn't use JetBrains, if you know what I mean. So it is meant to be pretty like generic across the board, but we'll see that when we get into the editors. Although I think all of you know what JetBrains, like who JetBrains is. They do developer tooling. They build a lot of the best IDEs. I actually learned with all JetBrains IDEs. So I started with PyCharm, and then I did IntelliJ, and then I tried CLion and Goland. Those are the ones that I've tried. And then when I was doing C++ development, we were made to use VS Code. And then I also tried Eclipse, which I did not like as much as IntelliJ. Let's be real. Okay, so let's keep scrolling down. So we got Java, we got TypeScript, and a decent percentage of people wanting to migrate to TypeScript, which is a good call if you're a JavaScript stan. Let's go. Good stuff. Shell scripted languages. We love to see it up high. We love that for you. Let's go. C++, C#, C, PHP, Go. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Look at that percentage for Go. That's 9% wanting to adopt Go. Kotlin also doing pretty well. It makes sense to me that we're seeing like Java, Kotlin, like things that integrate with Java, because Java's very verbose as a language. I didn't mind it like in general working with it, but you definitely need like tab autocomplete. Like this thing is very verbose. So I can see why things like Kotlin or like Scala could be like becoming more popular. Okay, yeah, Kotlin, we got Rust with a huge percent that want to adopt as well. Okay, Go and Rust, definitely trending. I'd like to think that's all the the tech influencers making memes about Rust. I think that dev memes are like one of the most, how would I say? Like one of the most compelling reasons for people to try a new language. Like this is why so many people want to try Rust, I think, is because so many people made all these memes about Rust that now they're like, I want to be part of that. Me too. The ones with the best memes will win out in the end. Yeah. So huge. We love that. Also cool to see an uptake in Swift. Swift is actually in my backlog of languages that I want to learn. So Swift, Scala, Elixir, Zig, Haskell, Rust eventually. Those are all my list of languages that I want to learn. So it is kind of cool to see that. I mean, they've got like a moderately high percentage of people that want to adopt. I'm curious as to like if they want to adopt it for fun or for work. But I think we'll probably see that more in the jobs section where we're seeing like what are the trending languages in terms of like employment. Assembly 1%. Oh no. Lua errors actually they killed me. I'm surprised that Scala doesn't have more people wanting to adopt it. Maybe Scala and Haskell need some love this year. Maybe as a tech influencer, I need to take them under my wing and say, hey, but I'm so bad at memes, so we're going to have to see how we can make that work, okay? Elixir? Dude, why is it so low for Elixir? Elixir's so good. Basically, I learned Erlang briefly when I was doing the 7 languages in 7 weeks by Bruce Tate, and it was really interesting to me how it's pretty fail-safe. So essentially, if some thread dies, it will restart it. And Elixir is what it's meant to be, like the more almost like modernized version of Erlang, if I'm not mistaken. So it has a very similar thing where basically if one of your processes dies, it'll restart the process. So it's really good for things where you don't want any downtime. Like it's like zero downtime software. So that's pretty sick. So I feel like some of these, I'm kind of surprised to see these ones on the lower end. I feel like they need some love this year. Although COBOL, Julia, don't people use Julia for like data science? I feel like that's where I've heard Julia mentioned. Be honest, chat. You tell me, okay? I actually have no idea. All right, and that one was that category. Programming, scripting, and markup languages. These are just like how often they've been used and the ones that are planning to adopt or migrate. I'm still surprised that Scala is not mentioned more. And Elixir. Yeah. Let me see. I think Elixir is used for WhatsApp. Or is that Erlang? I'm Googling it. Oh, here we go. 10 companies that use Elixir in production. Because, like, seriously, I remember learning this, like, the Elixir's ability to basically restart processes just, like, automatically. And I was like, why are more places not using it? Okay. Pinterest. Pinterest is using Elixir. We don't have that many Pinterest users or Pinterest devs in this survey. Alpha Sites, Club Collect, Lonely Planet, WhatsApp. Yup. Okay. All right. Okay, which programming, scripting, markup languages have you used in the last 12 months? So these are the ones that people are actually using. It would be interesting as well. Again, we'll probably see this in the job section, but like to distinguish between which of these languages are they using for fun and which are they using for business? Because I feel like that would be a factor in like whether or not you'd want to try this language. I feel like some of them you want to know to like be employable. Some of them you want to know because they're amazing and you love them. They're just like fun to write with. Also, contrary to internet fanboys, Rust is pretty low on the charts here, which is unfortunate. It's funny because I feel like nowadays, if you're like on tech Twitter or like anywhere on the internet, it's like Rust everywhere. So you'd think that their users are pretty high, but I guess less so than the top 5 that we saw there. Java, I feel like that's people writing it for work for sure. SQL, probably same. Python's just such a dynamic language. Like you can just use it in so many different circumstances. Like no matter what your job is, I feel like it's decently easy to adopt, and you can just use it to automate so many things. You can use it across so many different industries that I get why it's so high up. I get it. It is, yeah, of course. It is a bit slow since it's not a compiled language, but for the ease of use and versatility of it, I think there's a reason it's pretty high up there. It's crazy that C is so high. Again, these must be people that are employed with these languages. Also, Shell being high, love that. That's like, again, I think this is where like the versatility of the language is really playing into how much it's being used and how popular it is. Okay, so this looks like it's the same question, but mostly just in across the board to be able to compare it to different years. I feel like it'd be kind of cool to see. So the adoption of Rust has gone up quite a lot. Pretty much, okay, you can see when Prime started shilling Rust. When the tick starts going up there. Let's see. And you can see when Bash started shilling Go. Went down that year. No, I'm just kidding. It is interesting to see, why did Scala go down? Why did Scala go down in popularity? Did people start building it in Rust instead? They said, we're going to rewrite this entire code base in Rust professionally. I know there's no Zig on there, but Zig is very early days. So it could be that. Like, yeah, it could be that. And also it's more niche as well. Like you'll see some of these languages that are gaining popularity are just, there's such a, like Python, Shell, like they're both such universal, they have such universal applications for it. They're so high level. Also, Papa, thank you for the 5 subs. I appreciate that. Again, if you guys want to see the link to this, you can click on the link in the sponsor command or in the description if you're on YouTube. Okay, so let's see what they got to say about this. Okay, Objective-C is objectively retired. Having lost 2/3 of its users in the past 6 years, Objective-C appears to be reaching the end of its lifespan. Hot take, what do you guys think about this? In the past year, it was used by fewer than 2% of programmers at least once, and only 11 survey participants reported it as their primary language. The decline in usage of Objective-C has outpaced even that of COBOL and Perl. The language had a good run from its introduction in 1984 until Apple released its successor, Swift. Okay, fair enough. With other cross-platform languages such as Kotlin, Dart, and more, iOS developers are spoiled for choice and have few reasons to hang on to Objective-C. Okay, Trust in Rust, a story of growth. The only language to set a new usage record among this year's most popular ones is Rust. So I think Rust and Go were pretty close, right? Rust, right? Tell me they're close. I'm pretty sure it was like 9% versus 10%. 10% was for Rust, of people wanting to adopt Rust, and it was 9% for Go. So we'll take the L on this one. I'll cry myself to sleep tonight about it. It'll be fine. Aspiring to replace C++ with its strict safety and memory ownership mechanisms, Rust's user base has shown steady growth over the last 5 years. According to our data, 1 in 6 Go users are contemplating adopting Rust. Again, you guys can't see it, but these are the memes in action. You guys, we keep pinning Go developers against Rustaceans, and this is the outcome. Okay? They're making traction. As Go developers, we got to step it up. Although I'm part of the problem, so it's fine. I'm also the one saying, oh, one day maybe I'll learn Rust. Okay, programming, scripting, and markup languages. Java is the primary. Could see that definitely. Like these ones, Java, Python make a lot of sense. Python more for like, I could see it being used for personal projects and at work, but I could see both of these are quite heavily used in the industry, like in jobs. I feel like having JavaScript and just like HTML and CSS and as their primary like languages or markup languages makes sense given how much of the population are web developers. SQL is just a classic TypeScript, I'm glad to see TypeScript start to come up because types are important. Types are so helpful. Dude, JavaScript drives me nuts sometimes because there's just so many ways that you can shoot yourself in the foot. It's almost like too flexible. I personally, big fan of like more rigid, opinionated languages. I feel like it just makes my life a little easier. All right. Seems that some programmers who started using TypeScript in tandem with another language are gradually transitioning to using it exclusively. Huge W for TypeScript. 47% of TypeScript users use it alongside JavaScript. This year, that number fell to 38%. It's possible to assume that we'll witness a further decline in the share of JavaScript. Okay, we love to see it. We love to see it. Not gonna lie, that's good. Python 4, automation, infra things, tooling, lots of API related things. Yeah, like it's just so, Python's just one of those languages. It's just so easy to be useful in it. What's your go-to web framework? I don't do a ton of web development, but if y'all in chat have a response to that, feel free to post about it. But definitely, I think if you were planning on learning JavaScript, it's great to transition to TypeScript at some point. It's, from what I've heard and seen, it's only ever yielded nice things. Do you plan to adopt/migrate to other languages in the next 12 months? If so, which ones? Rust. Rust. Dude, look at this. These are crazy. Okay, so I guess this top bar, they're existing. Wait, I'm kind of confused by how this graph works. Can someone explain, like I'm 5, how this thing works? C#. Oh wait, primary language is C#, new language. Oh, I see. Okay, good thing it can explain like I'm 5. That is a core requirement for me. Okay, perfect. Okay, interesting. Okay, so TypeScript and Rust, having a huge correlation of people that use TypeScript that want to try Rust. I honestly do think that this is part of like Prime's influence. I don't know. Theo doesn't really show Rust, but TypeScript to TypeScript. Let's see. JavaScript to TypeScript I feel like is pretty high as well. Yeah. Let's see. Who else is, let's look at Go. This is what we care about. I'm just kidding. JavaScript. Okay. And PHP. PHP has some of the best docs out there. I'm not going to lie. It's actually very good. I think at one point we're going to review what makes good documentation, like what has the best docs and what doesn't, and like talk about where they fall short and whatnot. But some of these languages have some incredible documentation, even though they're not as popular. I like that Go. Whoa, I'm not planning to adopt or migrate. Yeah, we don't like change. We're not going nowhere, okay? Go developers, stay in their ground. I like it. I'm joking, by the way. It's good to try new languages. It's good to find what you love, and it's just going to let you code and have fun coding, which is really what matters, okay? If you keep it fun, then it's sustainable. Okay, for many years, Rust was among the most popular languages to learn. In 2023, and for the first time, Rust has taken the top spot. Not only has Rust overtaken Go, okay, tragic, to become the top language for those looking to migrate to another language, but Go users are also the first in line for those ready to adopt Rust. Huge. I like that Rust docs have dark mode by default. They really know their audience. They really know who they're trying to appeal to here. I respect that. Okay, however, since Go's user base experienced rapid growth up until 2020, a significant portion of those transitioning from Go most likely represent early adopters. Many of these trendsetters are looking for the next big thing, and after adopting Rust, could soon move on to the next big trend. I think this is something to highlight as well, is like a lot of the people that are developing for hobbies are like more likely to shift into these different trends versus people that are like their primary language. They're considering whatever they're using at work to be their primary language. But in my opinion, and I've said this before, Go is just such a good language for open source development and like open source contribution, which maybe is part of why we saw a spike, like people looking to connect with other developers online and like contribute code and stuff like that, because it's just so readable. The solutions are so clear. So I have not tried Rust. I'm not sure how it compares on the open source front, But that's part of what I love about Go, is that the simplicity really allows it to be something that people can pick up and something that makes you able to read other people's code and learn from other people's code and really achieve depth. And that's all I have to say about that. How do you feel about that? It's good. Okay, programming languages whose users do not want to migrate to other languages. Scala, dude. Wow. Okay, this is actually really interesting to me because Scala earlier had the least amount of hype, kind of like for newbies coming into that language, or like even experienced developers. It's not getting a ton of attention with people. Like, what did it say? That they use Scala in the last 12 months. How? That's crazy. So people that are using Scala love it and they don't want to change. They're not planning to adopt or migrate. But then there's so few people that are looking to learn it. If I'm understanding this graph correctly, right? Like 1% only. Huh. That is so interesting. That makes me way more intrigued about Scala. Dude, 73%. There's even more Scala users that are loyal to their language than Rustaceans, Swifties, and even Go. Huh. I wonder why. Okay, I'm so curious about Scala now. The article is, if you can do !sponsor, and that link there will bring you to the article. Must be Scala jobs. Yeah, I'm super curious to see. That's so interesting. But then you would think that if Scala is being widely used and advertised in the job market, you would think that more people are looking to learn that language and adopt that language. So this is really interesting to me. Okay, very cool. We'll keep moving on. What types of software do you develop with your main languages? Okay, we got websites, utilities. Okay, maybe let's look at maybe Python, because that's part of what I was speculating was the popularity of Python, is the fact that it's used across so many different uses. 35%. This is for business intelligence, data science, machine learning. Yeah. Huge. That makes sense. SQL, what's that being used for? System software. That also makes sense. PHP for websites. Oh, I guess a lot of people are using Laravel these days, right? It's funny that, oh yeah, I also want to try Elm as well. It's funny that like some of these more obscured languages are just, I mean, of course they're more obscure, so they're not mentioned, but like, so interesting. Okay. Yeah, it looks like, I mean, Python has pretty high numbers across the board. JavaScript does as well. That's Java. Why did I read that as JavaScript? Hello? Yeah, Java as well. But I think that's just because I would assume that's because there's just so many, like so much enterprise software that exists already that's written in Java, where people are using Java. Like it is the backbone of all enterprise systems, basically. Versus I could see like all the big companies, I could imagine they have at least one thing that's made with Java. And then Python's being used pretty well across the board for a bunch of different stuff. TypeScript as well, actually, is pretty high. Libraries/frameworks. Okay, wait, these are all making sense. Go being used for a decent amount of websites, a bunch of utilities, system software. I'm curious to see. So Kotlin, for some reason, has more libraries and frameworks. About the same in finance as Java. Huh. Very interesting. Elixir mentioned? Elixir is on the list? I know. Yeah, I saw that earlier. But again, so low. So few people wanting to adopt Elixir. I feel like maybe the value proposition for the language is just not that obvious. Like maybe people just don't know about it. So, ooh, okay, this is spicy. Look at this. Okay, Go. Look at those Go devs making bank. Got him. Okay, but Scala people. Okay, I get it. Okay, this is all making sense now. Okay, nobody wants to leave Scala, and they're also the highest paid employees by primary language. But Go is really up there. That's really interesting. I wonder why. Hey, what do you guys think? WhatsApp is built on Elixir? Yeah, it was WhatsApp and Pinterest were the biggest companies that I saw that use Elixir. It makes sense because Elixir is basically a zero downtime software. Like any processes that die when you're writing an Elixir, they'll restart. Huge. Yeah, show Golang as a better language for the buck. Yeah, exactly. I could see Go, like a lot of bigger companies have started adopting Go for its concurrency model and the fact that people are able to be productive in the language so quickly. So I think when it comes to onboarding at a lot of even bigger companies, Go just has such a quick start time. I don't know what you'd call it, but that makes sense to me. Kotlin, I could see for if you're working on enterprise systems. Same with Scala, but both of these are like compatible with Java or the JVM at least. Scala and Kotlin. So this does make sense. It's funny that Go is kind of just sandwiched in between there, right? What the heck? Okay, so that is the end of the language portion. For those who are interested in Rust, I'm going to give my friend a quick shout out. Okay, so this is Donut, aka Donut, works in cybersecurity. Oh wait, is that? Yeah, okay. Works in cybersecurity, is like insanely smart, okay, and is also the biggest Rust shill that I know, like more so than anyone else that I know, including Prime. So Donut has a video that's all about like why you should learn Rust, and I think he's reacting to Theo's video of like why you shouldn't learn Rust. So anyway, if you're curious about learning Rust specifically, I do know somebody who is a big advocate for the language, so I figured I would give him a little shout out and link his video here since we are doing a little bit of a deep dive on all of this stuff. So you can save that to your watch later. And let's do some AI stuff. Okay? Let's jump into their AI section. Bloop, 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 bloop. We go to the top. We go back. We go to AI. Okay, cool. So, as you guys know, AI is not really my cup of tea, but I am interested to see how other people are using it. I know that a lot of people are using it for code generation tools, text generation tools, image generation tools. These are all ones that I've seen. A lot of people not using AI. I fall into this 16% here. Okay, so 84% of developers are familiar with generative AI tools in one way or another. Cool. Okay, what stops you from learning about generative AI tools? I have security concerns / company security policy. I feel like I would fall into that one. I also have security concerns. And I think it'd be really interesting to dive into that because there is such a huge percentage of the survey respondents. Dude, I can't talk today. So many of the people that got surveyed that also have security concerns about using generative AI. Okay, nothing. I'm planning to try them in the near future. I see no value in them. I've never heard of them. They're too complicated for me. These are kind of interesting. The too complicated, not accessible. Like, in what way are they not accessible? Is it your region? Is it like an actual accessibility issue? Like, what is it? Okay, only 1.6% of all respondents have never heard of generative AI tools. We are in 2023. Everyone's been talking about it. So those are the 1.6% are probably my fellow people that are in like the tinfoil rooms with the tinfoil hats and like not on social media in any capacity. They just want to write their C and keep to themselves, mind their business. Okay, security concerns are the most frequently cited obstacle to the adoption of generative AI tools. Huge. Okay, so 60% of people are saying they have security concerns about using generative AI services. 30% have like neither disagree nor agree. I'm ready to use cloud-based generative AI services for work tasks. That's kind of crazy. This is kind of confusing because it seems like there must be some overlap here then. I'm ready to use cloud-based generative AI services, but I'm also concerned about the security of it. Okay. I have ethical concerns about using generative AI services. Okay, local or offline AI tools are unlikely to reach the quality and performance of the cloud-based solutions. I mean, that's fair enough because the local or offline AI tools are working with a much smaller data set than the cloud-based ones, right? But then it is a little bit more Like, it is more secure if you are using the local or offline language models versus a cloud-based one. My company's policy limits the use of cloud-based AI tools. Oh, huge. So many of them are. Oh, disagree. So it's only 28% that actually have their companies that limit the AI tooling. Okay. 6 out of 10 respondents. That's huge. Do you guys want to talk about, let's talk about some of the security concerns here. So I did a tiny little bit of research, and this article really stood out to me. So this one, I think, did a really good job keeping it concise, but talking about some of the security risks according to OWASP, which, for those who don't know, OWASP is like, how would I call it? It's like a free resource for security practices, security, like vulnerabilities and stuff like that are generally, you'd see all of that in OWASP. Okay, I'm doing a terrible job of explaining it, but it's fine. Look it up. Open Worldwide Application Security Project. Okay, so it's like a freely widely available place that you can look for different risks that exist. Okay, huge. She did a great job of explaining it. Okay, the unveiling of the first ever OWASP risk list for large language model AI chatbots was yet another sign of generative AI's rush into the mainstream and a crucial step forward in protecting enterprises from AI-related threats. So I'll read through this a little bit. Okay. So the OWASP top 10 risk list has been a go-to reference in the fight of making software more secure. So it's no surprise that developers and cybersecurity professionals paid close attention earlier this spring when OWASP published its all-new list focused on large language model AI vulnerabilities. OWASP's move is yet more proof of how quickly AI chatbots have swept into the mainstream. Nearly half, 48% of corporate respondents to one survey said that they had already replaced workers with ChatGPT in just 3 months after its public launch. Bro, that's risky. Okay. With many observers expressing concern that AI adoption has rushed ahead without understanding the risks involved. The OWASP Top 10 AI risk list is both timely and essential. So they've broken it down into 3 separate categories. They've got access risks that are associated with exploited privileges and unauthorized actions. They've got data risks, such as data manipulation or loss of services. And then they've got reputational and business risks resulting from bad AI outputs or actions. Huge. So that's basically the 3 categories that their 10 security risks fall into. So let's talk about the access risks. Of the 10 vulnerabilities listed by OWASP, 4 are specific to access and misuse of privileges. Insecure plugins, insecure output handling, permissions issues, and excessive agency. I feel like a lot of people fall into that. They're like, yep, I'll just get AI to do my whole job. It's fine. They can make all the big decisions. Then I don't have to. According to OWASP, any large language model that uses insecure plugins to receive free-form text inputs could be exposed to malicious requests, resulting in unwanted behaviors or the execution of unauthorized remote code. On the flip side, plugins or applications that handle large language model outputs insecurely without evaluating them could be susceptible to cross-site and server-side request forgeries, unauthorized privilege escalations, hijack attacks, and more. Similarly, when authorizations aren't tracked between plugins, permission issues can arise that open the way for indirect prompt injections and malicious plugin usage. I need to breathe. Hello? Finally, because AI chatbots are actors able to make and implement decisions, it matters how much free rein and aka agency they're given. OWASP explains that when LLMs interface with other systems, unrestricted agency may lead to undesirable operations and actions. Examples include personal mail reader assistants being exploited to propagate spam, or customer service AI chatbots manipulated into issuing undeserved refunds. In all of these cases, the large language model then becomes a conduit for bad actors to infiltrate systems. How do you feel about that? Let me see what people are saying. I don't understand the ethical concerns with LLMs. It's just the automation of a human process. This is interesting. So we'll get into the ethical concerns as well of LLMs. I have some notes on that. But yeah. Okay, I'll continue. Let's go into the data risks. So poisoned training data, supply chain vulnerabilities, prompt injection vulnerabilities, and denials of service are all data-specific AI risks. I think a lot of the risks that you would already have in big data also carry over, given the fact that AI is just like these large language models are built off of large data sets. So something to keep in mind. Data can be poisoned deliberately by bad actors who want to harm an organization. It can also be distorted inadvertently when an AI system learns from unreliable or unvetted sources. Both types of poisoning can occur within an active AI chatbot application or emerge from the large language model supply chain, where reliance on pre-trained models, crowdsourced data, and insecure plugin extensions may produce biased data outputs, security breaches, or system failures. With prompt injections, ill-meaning inputs may cause a large language model AI chatbot to expose data that should be kept private or perform other actions that lead to data compromises. AI denial of service attacks are similar to the classic DOS attacks. They may aim to overwhelm a large language model and deprive users access to data and apps, or because many AI chatbots are pay-as-you-go IT infrastructure, you can force the system to consume excessive resources and rack up massive costs. And then, of course, there's also the reputational and business risks. The final OWASP vulnerability is already reaping consequences around the world today over reliance on AI. There's no shortage of stories about large language models generating false or inappropriate outputs from fabricated citations and legal precedents to racist and sexist language. OWASP points out that depending on AI chatbots without proper oversight can make organizations vulnerable to publishing misinformation or offensive content that results in reputational damage or even legal action. And you can see this in even code generation as well. Like if it's producing code and you're not really reviewing it that closely and you're just like putting it into prod, it can actually cause major issues. It can cause different vulnerabilities in your code that can then be exploited. And that ruins face for your company. So keeping all that in mind is really important. Given all of these various risks, the question becomes, what can we do about it? Unfortunately, there are some protective steps organizations can take. So let's see. So they're talking about essentially being able to sandbox. So sandboxing is a great way to protecting data privacy and integrity, keeping confidential information fully separated from shareable data, making it inaccessible to AI chatbots and other public-facing systems. One thing that is concerning to me is the lack of visibility in the AI sector. So we don't know, I don't even know if there is any regulation for how you need to secure your AI models. So that is concerning to me because while sandboxing might be the best practice for those who are security conscious, some of these companies are also, if they have enough money behind them, it's like if they get caught, that's just like tax, right? If they're able to continue operating it the way that they are and it works good, well enough, and if they get sued or, there's some kind of data that gets outed by their model unintentionally, they might be willing to just pay when that comes up instead of paying to prevent those issues from arising. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Good separation of data prevents large language models from including private or personally identifiable information in public outputs. Yeah, so the fact that AI is being used in healthcare, to me, I've seen some different companies that are using AI in the healthcare system, meaning that it has access to people's health records, but without having a very, very solid regulations in place. That is terrifying to me. This is part of where I think that there's a huge, I don't know, that to me is just, there's a huge need to regulate these systems better, or at least provide some kind of framework in which these yeah, these companies need to operate in order to responsibly handle this data. I don't think it's fair that they collect all of the information that they possibly can, and we don't really get much of a choice in whether they use our data or not. And then there's also no regulations to protect us from any negative outcomes from using it. So that's something to think about. I'll link this in the chats so that you can finish reading it as much as you want if you want. Okay. Hi, it says software engineer in healthcare. Yeah, I don't want to know. Code with Kai, I don't want to know. I don't think I want to know. So, and realistically as well, I think this is a good point, is like the AI chatbots are here to stay. What I would love to see is some preventative actions taking place to protect users, to protect society in general from having our information exploited by these language models. That's one thing I would love to see. So that talks about some of the security concerns. I want to touch on some of the ethical concerns as well. This article, I think, did a pretty good job of going over it, but I'll summarize some of my takeaways. Here, I'll actually open that one up. Might as well. Here. All right. So this one kind of, I'm just going to leave it here because I already have my own summary of this one. So essentially, the value proposition of AI is being able to improve efficiency while cutting costs. And the fact that it can help us with our daily tasks and just make our day-to-day easier so that we're able to focus on what really matters and adding business value and not just these more menial tasks. The problem is AI is being used more widely for larger decision making. And on the development front, some of its solutions So it is being used on a more generic basis for making larger business decisions, larger decision making in general. And on the development front, you're even seeing people using the solutions as is to solve business requirements. So they're basically punching in the business requirements that they need to solve, like their Jira ticket, and then copying the code that it gives them and then pushing that into their system without really giving it the proper review that it needs to ensure that it's not going to do anything malicious or that it's not going to create some new vulnerabilities. I personally think that a lot of AI tooling should be taken with a grain of salt. It is just a tool. It is not, it's not the be all end all correct result every single time, right? Now, in terms of the ethical dilemma of AI, I'm going to read you what I wrote because I think I put it in decent words. I anticipate that the same issues that we're already seeing in big data, mainly bias and how it can impact people's lives, are reflected in our use of AI. These are just models learning off of large data sets. So any bias that exists already in that data will be present in those models. Or at least, that's my understanding of how AI works. I did read the book Weapons of Math Destruction, which is one that I would highly recommend if you are interested in learning more about bias in big data. I've mentioned it tons. It has been such a compelling book. Great read. And one of the concerns that's mentioned in this book is not only the presence of bias in the data set itself, but the self-reinforcing collection of these biases. So how they kind of feed in, how they continue to feed that data set with this biased information, and how there's a lack of clarity as to the decisions that these algorithms are coming to, the conclusions that they're making. At least when there's bias that's introduced on a human level, you can kind of pinpoint where that went wrong and try and adapt from there. But what's scary about these services that are relying on these large data sets and that are typically automated, is that there is a severe lack of visibility on how these models are coming to these conclusions that impact people on a massive scale. There will always be edge cases and anomalies, so it's really important to use these tools wisely. One of the examples that they used or not a specific example, but something that was mentioned in the Weapons of Math Destruction is how there will be edge edge cases, there will be people where the system fails them. And what's scary there is that they don't know that the system didn't work. So what would happen there is that they're just not approved for insurance, or they're just not approved for whatever it is that they're applying for, given the fact that it is some kind of algorithm that's deciding these things, and there's a lack of clarity or almost like QA process that's between the kind of end user and the conclusion that the software came to. There is not like nobody kind of watching that process. So there's some people where these systems really fail them, and it is life changing. And there is no way right now that we have to identify where these failures are and to go from there. So yeah, reading from ChatGPT transcript. I'm actually an AI bot. Yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on the ethics of AI. So I think, as with any new technology, I think that there need to be more blockers in place, more legislation in place to protect our data, to protect us. We are the ones feeding these models, to protect us, and we need to take it with a grain of salt and still have proper vetting processes for the outputs of these applications. That's not to say that AI isn't useful. I think it can be very useful, and it can really expedite a lot of things for us. But I think there also needs to be a human side to it, where you are analyzing, you're analyzing the outputs and making sure that you're kind of filtering it before doing something that can change someone's life. Yeah. So, yeah. What do you think about that? The ethics side of it. Do you think that I covered it pretty well? If you have comments on what you think are concerns for you on the ethical front, that would be really interesting to hear as well. And that's not to say that it's introducing any bias that doesn't already exist in our society. Oftentimes, these are biases that do already exist, but there's a reason why, as a whole, we are trying to come up with better solutions on how to tackle things. Running LLMs locally is going to be a big piece. I think that local LLMs are going to solve a lot of the security concerns and even ethical concerns that a lot of companies might have. The only issue is that, the less data it has, the less it can do for you. So I think this is where our data becomes very, very valuable, and the cloud-hosted solutions do become very valuable. Yeah. So, yeah. That's interesting. So that's my thoughts on that. Okay, and we were talking about, I'm worried that AGI will become hostile to humans. Okay, I'm not necessarily, I kind of want to be a little more hostile. I want to give me some attitude, If I'm using a chatbot, I want a sassy one. I want one that tells me how it is. Less than 1/5 of them are worried that AGI will become hostile to humans. It'll start bullying you and telling you you're dumb at work. I don't think you'll like that very much. Okay. To what extent do you agree or disagree with the following statements about the future of AI-powered code generations? AI coding tools will radically change the software development job market. Yes, I think it's already changing the way that we're able to conduct interviews, and even vetting our skills is going to become drastically different. To me, my favorite way of showcasing my skills is being able to showcase a project that I have and talk them through the solution to that project, and maybe even walk them through the code. I feel like that is a pretty valuable way that you can add value while maybe making it a little bit more AI friendly. So you can't really cheat coming up with a valuable solution to some issue and walking them through the exact solution step by step. So maybe that could work. I don't know how to fix this though. Maybe that means that more of us are going to have to just do the in-person whiteboarding. Kind of interesting to see how that's going to change. I don't think it's necessarily going to replace developers. The adoption of AI coding will raise the demand for professional software developers. It definitely will in the AI space. There's people that need to create and maintain these models. Some industries will never adopt AI coding. That's very specific. It's one thing to say some industries will never adopt AI. It's very different to say some industries will never adopt AI coding. So I guess that means, yeah, I don't know what this means specifically. What do you guys think it means? It seems people are thinking AI is only used this way. Before they became popular, they were used in scientific research, such as protein folding, quantum chemistry, neuroscience, cancer research. Lawmakers should take this into account, or they might inadvertently kneecap research. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, so I mean, this is interesting that they think. I mean, if healthcare is already adopting it, I don't know what else wouldn't. I don't know what wouldn't adopt AI if healthcare is doing it. Like, that's literally life and death that we're putting into AI's hands. Crazy. Employers will expect every software developer to be proficient with AI coding tools. I do think that I could see this happening in the next 10 years. Maybe not in the next 2 years, but in the next 10 years, probably. Same way that you need to know how to use Google. I feel like you're going to need to know how to search. Knowing what to search for is a huge part of being a successful software developer. So I do think that it's going to be a decent factor. Yeah. It's only been 1 year since this even came out. Yeah, exactly. The majority of coding will turn into prompt engineering. I don't think so. Oh, interesting how split this is. Some people are like, yeah, whatever. And then the other third of the population is like, yes, absolutely. The majority of coding is going to turn into prompt engineering. You can tell who's copying and pasting from Stack Overflow and who isn't. I'm just kidding. I'm just poking fun. Okay, let me poke the bear. Let me poke the bear. I will fully write code instead of developers. What? Yeah, I'm glad they all disagree. That's crazy. I've worked with AI for determining credit scores and for planning surgeries. They tend to use AI as a tool rather than an end-all be-all decision maker. They also tend to use methods that are more explainable than a typical neural network. Okay, good. That's huge, Kyle, because that's a major issue. Those were actually two of the examples used in the book of not all companies will, some people will use that as the end-all be-all decision maker, which is crazy. Fine tuning is more better than prompt engineering. Yeah, I think so. You'd still need talented devs and architects to review the code AI generated. QA should still mostly be human. Agreed. Yeah, agreed. Okay, despite the fact that 3 out of 5 respondents believe AI coding tools will radically change the software development job market, only 13% are confident that AI is going to fully write code in place of developers. That's a word. Nevertheless, about 1/3 believe that software engineering is bound to turn into prompt engineering. That's crazy. I mean, but this is how some people code right now. This is how some people code, they prompt engineering. They're prompting Google for solutions, and that's it. That's what they do. So maybe that could be a thing. Is that 1/3 of developers that think like that though? That seems crazy to me. Okay. In general, developers are rather optimistic and believe that AI will become a new tool to help them write code as opposed to something that will replace them entirely. Okay, good. We're feeling overall optimistic. And a lot of people are using cloud-based services, local or offline solutions, 13%. It's actually crazy to me that it's already that high. I'd love to know what companies are using their own local AI models. Probably all the big ones. Cloud-based solutions managed by you or your organization. Interesting. Other, I don't know. I like that answer. Oh, there's a lot happening. Hold on. I'll turn that off. But do these reports ignore the fact that we spend a lot of time trying to figure out solutions to problems than we do writing code? I don't think so. But I think, that's a good question. Because I think in this, case, it is talking about it's saying prompt engineering. So it's saying that's a good point. Because maybe maybe some of the people that agree with this are thinking that it's just going to help. It's prompt engineering. It's going to help them come up with the design or solution without actually writing the code itself. Interesting. Local offline is government projects. That makes sense. That would make sense. Yeah. How would AI handle novel problems that it hasn't been trained on, i.e. new solutions? I feel like it wouldn't. There's always going to be a human element to it, I think. On the opposite side, there are issues in the security industry with security researchers just fully copy pasting found vulnerabilities from LLMs. They're actually not vulnerabilities and wasting OSS people's time. That's brutal. Don't like that. Oh, wow. Look at all of these options. There's so many tools out there. Okay, so a lot of people use ChatGPT, GitHub Copilot, Midjourney, Visual Studio, IntelliCode, DALL-E. This is actually all 21% of these is TJ and all his fake accounts. You were generating so many images for a while there. Tab 9. I've heard good things about Tab 9. Pictory, Synthesia, Amazon Code Whisperer. Replit Ghostwriter, Kite, Codium. Interesting. I have heard of Codium. I've heard of Copilot. I haven't heard of the rest of these. I'm going to be honest. I've heard of Tab 9 as well. Sourcegraph Cody, heard of them. That's it. I haven't heard of any of the other ones. So that's interesting. It's interesting how many people are using ChatGPT. Like, it's such a general language model that, like, I mean, what are they using it for? You know? Again, is this going into the research side of coding, or is it going into like actual asking them to generate code? Okay, interesting. Okay, how frequently do you use the following features of the existing AI assistants for coding? Asking general questions about software development in natural languages, generating code comments or code documentations, explaining bugs and offering fixes for them. That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, I guess it's fine, but holy. Explaining the code, generating tests, search in natural language queries for code fragments, performing code review, summarizing recent code changes to understand what happened more quickly. This is cool. Refactoring code, generating CLI commands by natural language description. That is terrifying to me. The fact that people are just, it's like, they're just going to run that as root. No question. It's like, oh, you need escalated privileges to run this command. People are just going to like copy that exact same command, run it with root, like don't know what it's doing. Wild. To be fair, I totally used to do the same thing with like Stack Overflow answers. So what can I say? How frequently do you use AI tools for the following tasks? Let's see. Learning new things, brainstorming and evaluating ideas, summarizing content, proofreading content, rewriting content in a desired style. That's interesting. I like that. Translating text, generating content not directly related to code, preventing the use of inappropriate language. This is cool, actually. I have seen a cool AI tool. I can't remember what it's called right now. I should have written it down. I can't remember what it's called. I'm sure one of you is going to know what it is, where you can actually, it's a tool that you can run and it'll tell you if there's any, if there's anything basically like unethical in what you wrote. I'll post it in the Discord if I can remember. Most time-consuming activities, writing code. Okay, this is interesting. How is writing code the most time-consuming? I guess sometimes, but it's like you write your code and then you have to understand the code. So I feel like understanding the code should be higher than writing code, in my opinion. Because if you're managing an existing code base, you have to understand the code and then you have to write a solution to fix the bug or to like refactor or whatever. And then you have to understand the code again if it doesn't work. I guess that's debugging. Oh, I see. So if you add these up, then they would still be less than writing code. That's wild. Okay, performing code reviews, writing code comments of 16%. That means that people are just writing LGTM. Looks good to me. Let me see. I mean, this stuff is interesting. Writing code, understanding the code, refactoring, internet searches, writing code comments or code documentation. That one to me is valuable. I could actually see that. Helping. Debugging, performing code reviews. This is also very interesting to me. Also, did not realize that so many people were already doing this. I feel like this would be a very obvious way to add value with AI in your coding cycle. Performing actions in the CLI. This is crazy. This is actually really interesting to see, since Charm has mods, which is specifically for like script, like being able to integrate some kind of language model in your scripts, like do something with like the outputs or whatever, with get the model to do something with the outputs. I was actually getting it to summarize man pages for me, which was pretty good. That's one thing too. So like a lot of the very traditional documentation that developers kind of have to use, like at a certain point you end up having to use this because it is like the best source of truth for things. Man pages is one of those things, but it is not accessible to beginners. It is not accessible to beginners. So that is one thing that might be interesting for AI, is like figuring out how to kind of simplify these more complex things, just at least to provide an entry point. So like they can read this summary and then read the man pages, and then they already kind of have an idea of what's happening. So it's not like they're trying to figure out everything that's going on while they're walking through this more like low level description of what's happening. Yeah, so it's interesting. How simple / difficult do you find these activities? Writing commit messages. Simple. Yeah. Okay. For some reason, I thought this was difficult. I was like, oh my God. That's so good. Debugging is hard. I agree. Writing tests? That's interesting. I also feel like this question here and these results should be analyzed by schools to show where they fall short. Because in university, they don't teach you anything about writing tests, like at all. Do they ask how much people use LLMs to write their commit messages? I'm not sure. Did they do that already? I don't think so. I don't think we've gone into, oh yeah, here. I don't think that they've gone into something that specific. How frequently generating code? I think we did, yeah. Code comments, code documentation, explaining the code. I guess explaining the code might fall into that. Summarizing recent code changes to understand what happened. People could be using, like this technically could be, I've done this for PRs. Last one there. Oh, generating commit messages. Oh, wow. 6% only. That's kind of wild. That's kind of wild. Never. Rarely. Interesting. I would have thought more people were using that. Oh, how likely is it that you would delegate the following activities to an AI assistant in an ideal world where the performance of an AI assistant is human-like? Writing code comments or code documentation, writing tests, searching for code fragments inside the code base, writing commit messages. I would delegate it. 50% would delegate commit messages. And why are only 6% doing it? What's stopping them? Writing code comments or code documentation, writing tests. I could agree with this. Okay, so one thing, I wrote some notes already here, and I want to kind of review them a little bit. Let me find the one that I was talking about. Oh, I think I might have actually come up with this one and not written it down, which is sick. Writing tests. So one thing that occurred to me recently is like, it would be really nice to have, when somebody creates an issue or somebody raises some like they flag a bug or whatever, if AI was able to just to generate a failing test given what the user provided, like given the information the user provided, write a failing test so that we can account for that. At least that would give you some kind of template to go off of. Right? Like I'm not anticipating that they're writing this like perfect failing test, but just like a template of like, hey, by the way, this is a test that should probably fail with the current version of the software, and you should fix that. I'm surprised at that one. I use Copilot for PR. It's quite nice as I leave them blank. Okay, geek, you need to be better. Be better. Come on now. So that one was big. I'm also shocked at where is it? There's one where they're talking about code review. Yeah, performing code reviews. So this to me is life-changing. This, I could see there being a lot of value with AI. Given the fact that so many people are looking for mentorship, I don't think this will necessarily replace mentorship, but it can be like that first layer of filtering before you send it to the mentor. Or if you're a very junior developer and it's a pretty easy question or problem that you're trying to solve, I could see it like where AI would be helpful in telling you where your code is good and where there's room for improvement. I could definitely see that being handy. This is also making me curious. I don't know how, like I've never tried using ChatGPT for code reviews. I'm also very curious about like what language model are they using for the code reviews? So I looked into it a little bit. Not necessarily for code reviews specifically, but just like what large language models are being used for software development. So a few that came up was, of course, the JetBrains AI assistant. They have their own, I think they're working on, let me confirm the details here. Most of their AI assistant features use OpenAI, but we're preparing to release code completion models that are trained by JetBrains. So that's their AI assistant. I've also heard of Copilot, of course. I've mostly heard of them more on the code generation side. And then there's Codium AI. They do have something to perform code reviews or like review your PRs, which is pretty interesting. I think I'll probably end up doing a follow-up on this and try a bunch of different like LLMs for a YouTube video and see which ones kind of give me the best results, in my opinion. They did ask me to kind of walk you guys through their AI service a little bit. So we're going to watch a quick little video. Okay. How do you guys feel about that? You feel good? Too bad. Get wrecked. It was a rhetorical question.
Introducing JetBrains' new AI assistant, our AI-powered coding companion.
I'm not even doing it full screen for you.
AI has always been a part of JetBrains. Coding assistants, autocomplete, and more.
Huge.
AI Assistant is a natural next step. Large language models deeply integrated into your IDE, increasing your productivity throughout your coding workflow. Let's have a look at some of its most exciting features.
Okay, I'm not going to lie though. I am pretty happy with the fact that security is the first thing that they list when they're talking about the features. So fingers crossed. That means that when they do come out with their proprietary LLMs, there will be security as like the backbone of that large language model. Fingers crossed. Okay. Fingers crossed. Yeah. So it's looking interesting. Anyway, let's continue.
We write code, but we rewrite even more code. How can AI Assistant help us with refactoring? Let's have a look. Hit Alt or Option Enter and select Suggest Refactoring from the AI Actions context menu. AI Assistant will suggest refactorings for this code. It also explains why these changes are necessary. If you're happy with the suggestion, you can insert it as a diff into your original file, making it easy to see what was changed. AI Chat has become a popular rubber duck. AI Assistant brings chat natively into your IDE with deep context awareness.
Okay, one thing that I do like as well, I like that they are doing this whole report on like what's happening in the dev ecosystem, and it sounds like they're using that to kind of fuel the design for their products, which I like.
Open AI Assistant. Type in a prompt and wait for the response. AI Chat takes your current project context into account to give you the most accurate answer possible. Then, any code you generate in the AI Chat can be inserted straight into your file.
Like I don't know how to normally make it use your project context to answer your questions. Like that's pretty sick.
If you really want to speed up writing code, AI Assistant has sophisticated inline code completion.
I've seen this.
Start
I'm
typing
not a
in your
huge
current
fan.
file. An AI Assistant will propose the most likely piece of code to continue your file by analyzing all of the surrounding code. Finishing code means writing
But I do know a lot of people like the code completion. Documentation, huge.
documentation. AI
People need to get better at documentation. I think AI can hopefully propel them in the right direction since they're too lazy to write their docs well the first time.
assistant makes this easy
Tell
and
'em.
natural.
Tell
Open
'em,
the AI Actions
JetBrains.
context menu and select Write Documentation. AI Assistant will analyze the contents of the selected code and its relevant context to provide rich, formatted documentation. Now that you've wrapped up your
Sick. Now you guys have no excuses. All right.
work, you need to commit it. And that means you need a commit message. AI Assistant knows what you changed. Let it help write the message. Select
Nice.
Generate Commit Message with AI Assistant. The AI service will create a commit
That's
message,
huge.
and you can
That's
then
such a
finish
long
what it
commit
started.
message.
So how does AI Assistant get such incredible results?
I want them to give me conventional commit messages. I want to sick the JetBrains AI services on all you with the bad docs. That'd actually be hilarious. Dude, imagine I go to so I want to do a video where I'm reviewing people's like bad docs, not just bad, no, the good and the bad of documentation in the developer space. And I feel like all the people that wrote bad docs, I should be like, listen, I'm going to give you a license for the JetBrains model and you have to use it. Please write better docs with AI.
Results. In one word, context. Our IDEs already know your project. AI Assistant gathers rich context about your code, language, dependencies,
This was
current
cool to
file,
me.
and more. This context is then passed over to the JetBrains AI service. This provides a secure, transparent way of using
you're
this information with a variety.
Like I did think it was really cool how you're able to get context around the code that you wrote and just around what's happening in the project. I think I'd be really curious. I've actually messaged them already to see if I can try their LLM. I'm obviously not a JetBrains user, so I might actually try and integrate it with like some different tools, or maybe I'll try their editor. I don't know, but I would love to actually try this on like an open source project that I haven't hacked on before, but that I'm a user of. I think that'd be really interesting to like see how well I can understand the code base using their AI tool. The maintainer's gonna hate me. I'm not gonna PR. Maybe I will. We'll see. Haplo, thank you for the 7 months, by the way.
Of large language models. You can check out our AI Assistant plans on our landing page and see how you can use it in all of our professional IDEs, plus
Huge.
ReSharper. A small number of features are currently limited to certain products, but will soon be available in all IDEs and languages.
Yeah, so I want to try their LLM and try it with mods and see how it fares compared to other language models. And then I think it would also be really cool to see how how it helps me understand a project that I've never worked on before. Yeah, I'll become Neovim Core powered by JetBrains AI. It's actually JetBrains AI that becomes Neovim Core, but like I am pretending to be them. You know what I mean? Like I just take credit for all of the outputs. That's my evil plan for 2024. Danville, thank you for the tier 1. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, anyway, back to AI. So I think that code reviews, to me, that stands out as something that I would use AI for as someone who is not usually an AI user. I could also see it being really helpful for ideation, not necessarily coming up with ideas for you, but like just this kind of laddered approach. Like when you're going back and forth with people, it's like, you know, you go through a lot of different iterations and eventually you land on something you like. I think it can be good for that, for kind of bouncing these ideas on back and forth and not having to inconvenience anyone, right? If you're on you're in a small team, you don't want to take people away from their real job. But of course, real ideation with real people, I think still outweighs AI, but it can definitely be more time consuming since the questions that you're asking real people, I think should be more well thought out and something you've kind of already tried to answer for yourself. So I do think AI can be this kind of helpful middleman before you're ready to ask someone for real. So I think that's cool. I think AI assisted support for individuals, because sometimes it's hard to find where something is documented. So in theory, I think if there was an AI tool that can help provide the answer that someone is looking for, maybe in like a GitHub discussion or an issue, that could be really sick. I'm actually really curious to explore what other solutions people use to like log issues and stuff like that. I'm of the generation where GitHub was already up and running as a successful company and is like the standard. So I'd be curious to see that, but just like something that could work with these APIs across the board and help to answer people's questions, I think would be really huge and help a lot of the DevRel teams. I also think that testing could be made easier with AI. Just the setup and teardown of tests, I think, could be really helpful, and like giving you that framework. So it's just like a bit of a boilerplate that you can build off of would be really sick. And then, yeah, the performing actions in the CLI is like very concerning to me, but also interesting that I'm like, it's about a third that would delegate that. Interesting to me, given that I'm always looking at different content and stuff, use cases that I can showcase with the charm stuff. And I know that mods solves for this specifically. So that's pretty cool. It's designed for integrating AI into like bash scripting. I'd actually love to see if I can use, yeah, as I said, mods with the JetBrains language model and like see how that performs compared to other language models for coding and in your scripts. And then adding context to Git centric activities, in my opinion, like writing a commit message for a patch or the body to a PR. And I've done this with mods already, but again, not a huge AI user, so I've pretty much only used it. For Git centric activity. I've only used mods as any kind of AI tool. That's the only one I've used. And then, like, the reason being, I think that a lot of people just leave these empty bodies to their PRs. And in my opinion, I think over communicating is better than under communicating. So again, I think both like docs and just being more verbose and descriptive of what you're trying to accomplish is going to be helpful for collaboration across the board. So yeah, let's go into, we've got a few more sections to get through. I'm going to try and get through them a little faster because I was originally going to try and do this in an hour. There's no way. I like to react to things, man. What can I say? Yeah, and then also don't forget to use my link if you are wanting to support the sponsorship. If you're wanting to use the sponsorship to support the sponsorship, if you are on YouTube, you can use the link in the description. If you are on Twitch, you can use the sponsor command. I'm on Pop OS. People keep asking my distro. I'm on Pop OS. I'm using i3 Window Manager because it's the best. That's what I have to say about that. Okay, there's a learning section here. I think it's development. Is it development? Hold on. Where's learning? I think it's this one. Highlights, languages, developer lifestyles. Hold on. I think I gotta open this. I think I called it learning. Oh, sick. I linked. Oh, it's in the. Okay. This is like the mental health in the developer community. So that's like the health developer lifestyles one. I have another thing that I want to touch on first, but I got to find it. I think it was the demographics. This one was interesting. And I have thoughts on this. I did research on this one. You guys are going to love it. What was that sound? I don't know what I did. Maybe that. I think I do that one. Like, it's part of who I am. Are you showing straight from X11? I'm streaming straight from i3 Window Manager. So yeah, I don't use a dual PC setup, and that's why my OBS is always broken. Okay, this one's interesting. Reason being, the female section is insane. So we'll go into it, but first we'll go through the rest of these. Okay, so 63% are employed. What's crazy is that TJ no longer falls into this category. He would be self-employed. So he's in the 5%, or he'd be in the 1%. Easy. 63% of respondents are fully employed by a company/organization. These must be the Scala users, okay? They're all employed. Scala people are employed, by the way. I'm actually now I want to learn Scala. Now do I prioritize Scala over Zig? No, chat wants me to learn Zig, so I feel like I got to do it. Anyway, so 63% are fully employed, 15% are students. Okay, also love to see students taking initiative and like being aware of what's happening in their field. I give so much credit to the 15% of people that are on here that are students and that are trying to be immersed in what's happening in their like careers world. Cause like you're so busy as a student that like any extra time that you're able to spend getting to know this stuff and like just be part of the community as a whole is huge. So proud of you. Proud of you. Working student, huge. That was me. I was always working while I was a student. Even bigger that they are there. Freelancer, self-employed. What's the difference between freelancer and self-employed? Are you a contractor if you're a freelancer? Is that what that is? You're a contractor? And then if you're self-employed, it's your own company? I guess so. But then what's the difference if you're partially employed? Does that mean you're a contractor? Seems like they're all contractors. I'm going to label them all under the same umbrella out of bias. Okay, interesting. Freelance and self-employed developers by country or region. This is interesting and I don't know why. Why is this the breakdown? Okay, Middle East, Africa, Central Asia. Love that they're taking initiative. Be self-employed, freelance. Get it. Okay, Eastern Europe, Balkans, and the Caucasus. Central and South America, Argentina. I like how it's like South America and then also Argentina. Like that's not part of South America. Argentina specifically. There are a lot of developers in like Argentina and Brazil. Mexico, Turkey, France, other Southeast Asia and Oceania. 12% in Canada, 12% Japan. How are they all self-employed freelancers? Like, what's the difference in culture that makes that more appealing? How does that happen? Okay. A high proportion of freelance and self-employed programmers in a country or region can potentially indicate the local economy's focus on the export of software development services. Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, this is because many programmers from developing countries can earn more when working remotely for overseas companies compared to being employed in their domestic markets. An interesting observation is the relatively low level of freelancing in India and Brazil. Presumably, people there often work through large outsourcing firms or directly in international companies' development centers situated in these countries. That is so interesting. Where is the USA? 11%. Less than Canada. Get wrecked. This kind of surprises me though, because like because the UK, I can only speak to Canada, United States, UK in terms of their government stuff, but like UK gets a decent amount of like government support. So I wonder what's different in kind of maybe the culture or the expectations or something that makes them lower than Canada. Because I feel like with Canada, we can like risk it for a biscuit. You know what I mean? Like we got free healthcare, but so does the UK. Why don't they freelance? Why are they not risking it for their biscuits? Explain to me like I'm 5, please. Thank you. Okay. Which of the following best describes your job role? Developer, programmer, software engineer. I'm a software engineer. Do you know you can't actually call yourself an engineer in Canada? You're not allowed to hold that title unless you've completed a specific program that makes you an engineer, and you get a cool pinky ring to go with it. You get rings, man. They give you jewelry. They ice you up. Okay, DevOps engineer, infrastructure developer, team lead, architect, data analyst, data engineer, data scientist. Only 7%. I'm surprised given how many Python users there are answering this survey. Whoa, C-suite, by the way. UI, UX. Interesting. Why are they so low? Why? This is crazy to me. I guess it describes your job role. I guess these are only the employed people, right? Are the students answering this? Are they skewing the results? Yeah. 11% is down for prior years. Oh, in which one? In DevOps? Is that in Canada? Yeah, in Canada, the engineer title is protected. A lot of French devs working remote for the US and the UK. Yeah, I think so. France was pretty high. But it's only 1% higher than Canada. I guess they're all moderately low. Huh. It's better to be paid in USD. I know. For real, for real. I do infrastructure development. We were classified as, oh, interesting. Okay, so maybe there's more, there are more roles that are kind of falling under the umbrella of software engineer. Makes sense. I mean, titles, what do they really mean? Wow, okay, a lot of senior devs answering this poll. Trainee, other. Maybe that's the staff engineers. I'm not senior, I'm staff. I'm actually staff level. Don't talk to me. 1%, baby. Okay, age range 21 to 29, a bunch of youngsters. 18 to 20, even more youngsters. 30 to 39, they probably know what's going on. 60 or older, the 2% that are absolutely based. They're a better dev than all of you will ever aspire to be. Actually, I think it's really inspiring when people, I know, like when I hear of people that have retired and they still code. I mean, it just speaks to how addicting it can be and like how much they really genuinely cared about writing code. I love our elders. Elders are important. Respect them. Share of under 30 developers by country or region. Middle East, Africa, Central Asia. Wow, a bunch of youngsters in Middle East, Africa, Central Asia, India, China, Turkey, Eastern Europe, under 30. I feel like most developers are under 30. Almost most. Yeah, these are all pretty high. I guess it's not most in most cases. Share of under 30 developers. So it's only most up to Germany. And then it's like the lower end there. How many years of professional coding experience do you have? 3 to 5 years. That's interesting because we're in 2024 now. So they started 2019. These are people 2019 or 2021. That's wild. Okay, question 2. Like, when you say professional coding experience, is this like you've coded at work on any projects or like you're a software developer? You know? How are you categorizing this? Because I could have also like, what about personal project? Professional. It's professional, so it's at work. Because I used to do coding stuff at work, but it wasn't my full job. I would code when I needed to code. If there's anything, if you're just getting paid for it, anytime you're getting paid to code. Okay, cool. So I'm so experienced. Do you know? Okay, what's your country or region? China mainland. Let's go. Actually, China has a lot of Go developers. So shout out to my Go devs in China. Maybe one day I'll learn Mandarin and I can say cool things about Go to Chinese homies out there. Okay, United States 14%, 11% India, 8% Japan, 4%. Oh wow. Actually, this all makes sense. These are the exact outside of China. And outside of Japan, like all of the English speaking countries that are in here are the same highest percentages as I see in my viewership, which is interesting. Yeah. That's what I see on my viewership. Like almost this exact order, actually. My viewership on Twitch and YouTube. Okay, which is the following that best describes the highest level of formal education that you've completed? I thought it was done for a sec. I was like, uh-oh. Bachelor's degree, interesting. Okay, this is me. I'm in the 19% without earning a bachelor's degree. Bachelor's degree, master's degree, secondary school, get them. Doctoral degree, what's a professional degree? Is IT your company's core business? Yes and no. Yeah, fair. Okay. Wow, a lot of people working for the mid-range, mid-level companies. 2 to 10, that's always been me. I leave when there's more than 10. No, I'm just kidding. But when they get too big, it starts to become bureaucratic, and then I that's when I dipped in the past. When it becomes there's too much bureaucracy. Okay, in which of the following sectors is your company primarily active? IT services. I'm not that interested in this stuff. What kind of development does your company do? Actually, I guess this is kind of interesting for like maybe job stuff. Whatever. We're gonna ignore this until we get to the interesting part of like women in tech. Within one country, across several countries. That's us. That's charm. Oh, I use Kanban. Do you guys use Kanban? I don't do Scrum since we don't do Scrum. I use Kanban boards to organize my life. In case you're wondering. Not that anyone asked, but that's what. Wow. Okay. It's interesting to see how these salaries vary worldwide, eh? So much. Median value annual net. Okay, so apparently the highest earning places is United States, and then Canada at almost half, United Kingdom at half. All the rest, 33. Dude, this is crazy. It's crazy. I guess the cost of living is a factor as well. Cost of living in US and Canada are crazy high. Crazy high. Like rent is insane. Share of top paid employees by job role. Okay, architect. That's interesting. Architect, what? How is it high? It's higher than I don't even want to be C-suite. I want to be architect. Say, listen, I'll take a spot on the board, or you give me the architect role, okay? Hear me out. This is what I qualify for. Should have top paid employees by primary language, Scala. We went over this already, but huge. Gender, dude, 5% female. 1% non-binary, genderqueer, or gender. So there's like 5% female. That is insane. There's like max 8%. That's me. Top 5%. Let's go. Let's go. That's right. Coding unicorn should be in there, counting for at least 1%. No. That's insane. Okay, so I read this and then I was like, you know what? I want to research kind of like what, not necessarily, like kind of why is there only 5% of developers that are women, and how we can help change that. Because I don't necessarily think that just like, oh yeah, hire more women is necessarily gonna solve anything, right? Like there's some cultural shifts that need to happen to make it more so that they actually stay. Okay, so there's an academic article that I'm gonna link that I used. This is my primary source that I'm reacting to. Okay, you might not be able to read it, but you can use, I think, what did I use? I used like Sci-Hub. Yeah, so let me talk a little bit about some of the points that were made in that article. Do you have an annotated bibliography for your source? No. Click on the link, make it yourself, T. You already ruined me yesterday, okay? All right, so I'm going to zoom it in a little because we're getting spicy, all right? Okay, so the strategies of developing women leaders, formal and informal. Oh, we're talking about, ways that we can. Okay, sorry, I did not write this in a way that is English. So let's talk about some of the ways that that it's showing to support women at work, okay? The strategies include developing women leaders, formal and informal mentoring, role models, and networking programs have also been shown to be invaluable methods to increase inclusion. Resilience for employees is a two-way street. It requires effort and commitment from both the individual and from the company in creating an organizational resilience that supports these minorities. All right? So the summary of organizational practices that could help to support women in male-dominated industries, aka gender inclusion strategies. This is the summary. Okay. Sorry, you guys, I'm reading this and it's not English, so I'm trying my best. Resilient organizations that can be adaptive and highly effective rely on motivation, teamwork, trust, and ultimately staff retention. For women, there is often a sense of exclusion due to a variety of obstacles that lead them to having high attrition. For those who don't know what the definition of attrition is, it is the process of reducing something's strength or effectiveness through sustained attack or pressure. The goal of the study is to provide strategies to build resilience of women in gender hostile environments to reduce attrition of these women. So it's not only just about, of course, reshaping the workforce to make it kind of like more welcoming of people who are not just men is important, and also being able to give women and minorities the confidence to be able to kind of bring themselves out of these bad situations that they might come into at work, and not letting it like drag them down and take them out of that domain. Right? Can you show what you're reading? It's just my notes. It's just my notes. I can maybe I'll go into big screen. Yeah. So the goal of the study is to provide strategies to build resilience of women in gender hostile environments to reduce attrition of these women. Given the research on women's experiences, here are the recommended steps to increase workers' resilience at work. There's a bottom up and top down approach to this. From the bottom up, that would be providing mentoring, networking, potentially alternative management structures. It didn't really go into detail on this, but that's something that was mentioned. And supportive policies. This one it did go into detail on, and it said something along the lines of the organization sets the tone for how women and marginalized people should be treated. By enforcing protective policies, this will guide the culture towards more inclusion. Accounting for flexible working arrangements and family-friendly policies are important given the differed social expectation across genders. Not shying away from changing policies to better support employees should be embraced by even the largest of organizations if they hope to have a more inclusive work culture. A supportive culture will increase productivity and retention at that company. From the top-down approach, this would be through government initiatives, legislation, and funding. Both of these practices initiate a cultural change in organizations to improve the inclusion of more women and marginalized people in the industry. This study is mostly on women specifically, but it does tie into pretty much anyone that is not feeling included in the industry. So some things that you can actually practice at work that might help to build resilience for these people is creating a sense of belonging. So the retention of women and their participation in the workplace are highly dependent on their sense of belonging. And what is a sense of belonging in a corporate setting? That is that they feel accepted, that they feel respected, and that they are a valued group member. If a woman feels undervalued and ostracized from the group, they will move away from the domain. This is different from social belonging because it relates to their belonging in a certain domain rather than a social group or community. What's interesting, though, is that you could almost argue that the domain is the community as a whole. Like, it's just one big community that falls under the umbrella of like programmers, right? So, yeah, that's interesting. So let's talk about some things that push women away and why it pushes them away. So sexism, obviously, that one makes them feel very segregated and not respected in the workplace. Academic success. So this is a quote. They found that the value and acceptance of academic work within a male-dominated field was influenced by negative sex role stereotype. And this in turn predicted longevity. So this is kind of interesting because I don't know whether this line is trying to say that within an academic environment, there's still a lot of biases that are allowed to exist, and that in turn is affecting how many marginalized people are staying within that domain. I'm not sure if that's what it's trying to say, or I don't fully understand that sentence, but I thought it'd be interesting to share and like hear your different opinions on that. Um, from my own experience, though, in regard to academic success, uh, I do remember feeling quite divided from my classmates in school. I found a lot of the high achieving students were basically men who had been programming since they were young kids. And given academic environments are so competitive, I found this very difficult to overcome. And especially because typically when you are in an academic setting, you're just starting to get into that domain. So you don't have the confidence to really like stand your ground and stick through it. So you're a lot more kind of sensitive in these early stages of getting into a different domain. So this is something that was from my own, that's speaking to my own experience. I also didn't know or see any professors in my field that were women. Like in the entire computer science department, I don't think they had a single female professor at multiple universities. So that's kind of crazy. And I think that makes it a little bit harder as well to kind of have mentorship or like someone who can share tips or anything like that with you. And yeah, so I think that's a big part of it. So given that, let's go back to talking about supporting women in male dominated spaces by helping increase their resilience. So one of the requirements here was it said access to resources and psychosocial support. I can speak to this because even in the stream, even in like the live streaming coding space, it is very, very male dominated, both with other streamers and even the viewer base. And if I didn't have a very solid social support network from the beginning, I would have stopped creating content a long time ago. It helps a lot to have people that you can share your experiences with, even if they are men and they don't necessarily like fully understand it, just to know that you're heard and respected by people in the field that are willing to have your back is a really big part of it. So I think that falls into the psychosocial support that this study recommends. I really do think it takes a village to enable you to overcome all of these external influences that try to push you away from the domain. It helps too that the audience, as it you guys, chat, good job. Chat mentioned, by the way. The audience has been mostly supportive. So even with that being said, though, of course, when you're discredited or people say awful things about your skill set towards a given domain, it will always stand out and cause some level of like tension for you. But at a certain point, when you're deep enough in that domain, you've got the confidence really to overlook it. And I think that that's a really important factor as well as to whether people stick with learning to code or they stick with going into a male dominated industry as a woman, is like how far along they are and what obstacles they face, right? So that being said, to get to a place of certainty within a domain requires a foundation of experience that can provide you with the confidence to disregard these messages or take them as constructive criticism. Like being able to make it useful is really important. Here are some things that build confidence. We're almost done. Okay. Things that build confidence. So this would be training programs, mentorship, role models, networking. I think we can all say it would be sick if when you get hired, it's like, here is a mentor for you. Here is a safe space. Or you can even like after a few months, you get to say, hey, I would love if so-and-so could mentor me or whatever. That'd be huge. It'd be really nice to have someone that you can confide in. Hopefully that's your manager. Huge. Good management is, I think, could make or break a company. So yeah, insanely valuable. So yeah, training programs, mentorship, role models, and networking, those will all build confidence. In addition to the psychosocial support that we just mentioned, this is a bit more informal. So having inclusive leadership and management are really critical for this. The top 3 barriers to women's employment are typically workplace discrimination, social exclusion, and harassment. Having a mentor or role model in the organization provides them with a safe space for positive reinforcement and guidance. Networking with other women in the domain is also really important. So having events that are for women in tech or women in aviation or women in the military, which are some of the examples that they were giving in this study, um, having those spaces allows those other women in the space to serve as inspiration for others. And this also allows them to voice and gain support for various challenges that might arise throughout their careers. So sometimes it's not necessarily about having the power to change everything, but it really does help to have people to just feel heard and understood, and that your problems aren't just your own. I think those are all a huge thing in trying to be more resilient in your domain and being able to stick with it even when you are kind of alone. So the trick is to make them feel less alone. But I did think that the 5% is crazy. It's really hard. It can be really hard to break into tech as a woman. And I think from my own experience, at least, like from what I've seen, there are a lot of women that have come through like non-traditional routes into coding and into the tech domain, into now being software developers. And I think part of that might be due to the culture at universities. So yeah, it's interesting. On the other side of this, I've found it so incredibly difficult to hire women just because they're so hard to find. Well, that's exactly it. It's not even about like it's also just about getting people in this space, like getting people feel that they can get through those initial stages of like learning to code, because there isn't really a ton of inspiration or even like safe spaces that they can be in and seek out help. I think this is where it's really important to have female tech influencers, I think. And even like for me, this is a good reminder that I should. Oops, I'm yelling. I'm not yelling. I'm banging my desk. This is a good reminder for me that like I should be doing these streams where I build in public and I show people that like, hey, I'm a woman in tech. I hope there's other women out there that are able to watch me and see that like, sometimes I'll be really cool and I'll crush it right away. Sometimes it'll take a little while, and that's okay too. And I think that that's a message that I think that resonates with developers across the board, but especially for women, I want them to see that like no matter what happens, even if I do get weird messages in the chat, even if I do get whatever, like it's okay to let it just be water off a duck's back. Like things only get the power that you give them. So yeah, I think it's important to have females in the space and females that are advocating for development and to help women get in the space. So I think it'd be great. I think mentorship is important. For any of you that do have a woman at your company, it'd be great to, like, even at your company or even like interns or anything, like, it's just great to be able to have mentorship. I think for me, having a mentor early on made a really big difference, because I don't know what it is, but I did find that like even as an intern, the boys did not question themselves as much as the girls. This is like completely subjective, completely from my own experience, but like they would just be like, "Oh yeah, I got this." And the girls would be like, "Oh, but I have to do it great the first time." Like, what do you mean you got this? Like, so having a mentor really did help me a lot in getting situated and getting my footing from intern to someone who is like leading projects and stuff like that. Okay, I'll be right back. I gotta blow my nose. One sec. Okay, let's read. I'll read chat for a bit because I think this is a really important topic to touch on. Part of why I decided to actually like read a peer-reviewed article on it and get some really valid research in the space to cover it. Manny, thank you for the tier 1. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. What's the gender split on my channel? I don't think you want to know. I don't think you want to know. We can look. Let's see. Overview research? I actually don't even know what tab it would be in now. Demographics. I think actually it's hold on, I gotta try and find it. Okay, I think I have to look on YouTube actually. I think YouTube has the better analytics on this. Last time I checked, it was like less than 1% women. It's hard too because it's like Twitch is such a male-dominated platform. YouTube is a bit more balanced, I would say, but even still, it's mostly, I think it is still mostly men. Like I could appeal to more women maybe if I did a different kind of content, but like even myself, like I'm trying to find content that I would watch. And like I don't necessarily like sit around and watch like technical tutorials in my spare time, you know? I want to chill when I'm watching YouTube usually. Let's look at my audience. Let's see. Age and gender. Oh my gosh. I've got 1.7% female audience in the last 30 days. Let's look at the all-time. Okay, so my all-time female viewership is 1.1% of my viewers. Yep. I've seen it at least in the cloud space. There was a ton of great resources for women in our space looking to get into tech, but that were greatly underutilized. I think that it sounds like the problem is of course on the corporate side, but it's also just in like getting there. Like getting them to the point where they are now an employable software developer. Like between the beginning and that time, I think is when, or at least from my own experience, that's when you're most like vulnerable. Like you don't have the experience to back it up, to give you the confidence to overlook these comments or to overlook these different situations where you are ostracized or you are just not included as much. But being on the internet has helped a lot because like I know at least a handful of other women that I can talk to and that are in the space. But yeah, it's really hard. Yeah. But I think it's this is where I was like, I want to actually research this and talk about it because I think a lot of people are just like, just hire more women. It's like, I don't think that's necessarily the answer. I don't think that's necessarily like, you shouldn't just hire someone just for that, but I think that there are ways that you can make because like oftentimes it's also just retention. Like they just they can't keep working there. I guess most of your viewers are already in the field. I think there's a good percentage that are students as well. Having a female role model would do a lot to get more women in the tech industry. Yeah, there's some awesome content creators out there that are, I think, helping a lot. Tiffin Tech comes to mind. She treats it like it's a business. Like she's really consistent. So, yeah. It's really good. How do you feel that any of the barriers that women have in this industry are intentional, or is it all side effects? I think it was probably intentional for a long time. I think in some cases it'll still be intentional, for sure. I think it just depends on the context and the group. I mean, some people want it to be just a boys, like some people want their team to just be a boys club, or they want their like like their friends at school to just be a boys club, and like that's just what it is, right? Yeah, it's interesting. What's your take on recruiters streaming on LinkedIn? What? What do you mean? What is that? Yeah. Hiring more women is important, but if you don't provide the right culture, it doesn't help. That's pretty much like what this study was saying, is that if it's not a good culture, it can actually lead a lot of women to step away from the field. This is because it is talking about male dominated fields. I'm sure it would be, if it was the inverse, like if it was a female dominated field and it was the same kind of isolation that men were experiencing, it would be the same thing. It would cause them to step away from that domain. So I think sorry, I almost dropped my phone. From the sounds of it, it's just like people just want to feel included and heard and like they're a valued team member. I don't think it's like there's not that much to it. It's just about making people feel valued and feel like they're really a respected part of the team and that their opinions matter. And if there's ways that you can change the culture at work to improve that and make it easier as well for people to have a safe space to talk about these things and have someone that they trust at work, like they're going to feel so much more satisfied. And I think that's everyone. It's just a very human experience to want to feel valuable, especially in a team setting. Like you don't want to be the one that gets, I don't know, like pointed out and like not valued and not respected. Like I'm sure we've all been in situations like that. And I think it's just I guess at a larger scale when it comes to the gender issue across various domains. So that's just something I wanted to touch on. I thought it was just kind of an interesting problem to discuss, and it's really cool to hear from everyone in the chat about that as well. So let's go into the learning portion. I think, yeah, this was actually interesting. So actually one thing, South Korea has an insane amount. They have the most, South Korea and Argentina. They're doing great. You're doing great, sweetie. They're doing great. They're getting a lot of women in the space, there's like a lot of, in Europe, United Kingdom, United States, like these, I mean, it's still so low, but like, it is cool to see that some of these countries have different initiatives. I know that I've researched why this number was higher in South Korea, and they've got a certain amount of initiatives as well in place to get more women in STEM. So yeah, it's really good. It's cool. I don't know if South Korea's program is really doing great when it's been running for 30 years. I mean, the numbers are higher than anywhere else. So it's some progress, still progress. So I think that's good. Yeah, so this is kind of interesting as well. How it's mostly, like most of the women's roles are middle, junior are the most common versus the men is middle and senior. I think it could also just be timing, right? Like I feel like a lot of senior people are potentially in like an older generation. It's a bit different. I don't know. The rest of this would just be speculation, but we've already spoken about it quite a lot. So I think I'll move on to the learning section. Let's talk about learning. Learning is part of the lifestyles, I think. Oh, actually, wait, learning, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, I think, yeah. Okay. Then we're in the right section. We're good. All right. Career. Have you ever switched your career field to IT? No, IT has always been my primary field. I worked in another field before switching to IT. I could see this number continuing to rise given the popularity of boot camps and the accessibility of that. I think I'd actually be really interested to see how this number has increased over the years, because I know that there was a big influx of people during COVID that wanted to switch to switch to like tech specifically. Hold on, I gotta open up YouTube chat because they're getting wrecked. They're ignored. Yeah. Okay, there we go. The prime age for switching to IT is one's 30s. That makes sense. It's like you basically already have a career and think, okay, I don't want to do this forever. Let me find something that is more interesting. One thing that I do like about the tech industry is that it's so diverse. So even if when you enter it, you could be doing something completely different from where you end up, right? If you decide after a decade that like, hey, I want to start to branch into this other side of tech, it's like you can really grow with the field. There's not much of a ceiling in terms of like what you can and can't do, which is really cool. Why did you choose to become a software developer? Let's see. Technology, computers, and everything related to them was always interesting to me. I would say that applies to me as well. Programming was my hobby. I liked STEM. I'm passionate about tackling complex challenges. I wanted to create something new, like a video game or a website, great salary and other benefits. I like to make things better. The ability to work remotely, only 7%. An influential friend, relative, or acquaintance was a developer. I became a developer by chance, not by choice. That's crazy. I'm actually really curious about this one. Does anyone have that same experience? I became a developer by chance, not by choice. That is wild. It's like, whoops, I slipped and fell and now I know HTML. That's basically me. Really? That's so crazy. Okay. It didn't require a degree. Great. That's true. Spitting facts here. I thought it was interesting. Only 18% was a great salary and other benefits, which is kind of interesting. Oh, I left my water elsewhere. That's okay. How did you get into tech? It was the only thing that sounded interesting to me when I was looking at university applications. I had no idea what computer science was, but I was looking at everything else. I was like, I don't know. I like math and sciences, but like, I'm not that into, like, I don't want to be like a chemist. I don't want to be a biologist. I was also considering like working in the medical field potentially, like doing radiology or something like that, because it's kind of, or like biotechnology, because it allows you to do, to kind of combine technology and healthcare. But then I was like, I don't want to live my life in a hospital. Like, I don't want to spend 40 hours a week in a hospital, so I don't think that's for me. I want to spend time with my dogs. That was pretty much it. I was like, I just want to have a bunch of dogs and be able to hang out with them all day. That's the main goal here. What can I choose? So computer science was the most interesting major to me when I was looking at going into universities and stuff. Also, Graham and Daniel, thank you so much for the raids, by the way. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Biotech is pretty interesting. Are there people here that are in biotech? How do you like it? Should I have done that? Should I regret my life choices? Be honest. I studied physics and math degrees, so it naturally steered towards IT. That's true. I had friends that were taking math degrees, and they all started to get interested in learning to code by like second year. In music school, I had an electronic music as an assignment. In there, we learned some music-specific programming languages, and then due to some complications in life, I ended up working as a software developer. That's crazy. Wait, that's like, I know at least 3 people that have gone from music to coding. All right, so Barives, so you're 1, Big and Bot 2, and why am I forgetting right now? Ken Wheeler. They're all like musicians turned programmers. That's so interesting. That is wild. Okay, interesting. Why did you choose to become a software developer? IT has always been my primary field. I worked in another field before switching to IT. One thing that people need to keep in mind, okay, if you are someone who's considering switching and becoming a software developer from another field, is like, all of the problems that you've been working with up until that point are human problems, right? Like you've been working in a specific domain, making some kind of process easier for people. And software is just programmatically defined solutions for people's problems. So Your knowledge will carry over to coding and make you it can make you an expert in coding for that specific field. So give yourself some credit. I just wanted to mention that because it's huge and it's a scary thing to switch fields. But I'm proud of all the people that have switched fields, and I'm proud of all the people that are original nerds. So that's cool too. So technology, computers, everything related to them was always interested to me. Oh, it's interesting. Okay, so programming was my hobby. 44%, that's a lot of people. These numbers are like are very comparable, hey? There's no like massive gaps, it looks like. I'm passionate about tackling complex challenges is what appealed to them having switched from another field. That's interesting. Interestingly, among those who switch to IT rather than get into it from the start, a lot of people are enticed by the possibility to work remotely. Oh, that's interesting. Great salary and other benefits is much bigger. Yeah, it's true. It's more important to people that are switching careers versus people that were always interested in tech. The ability to work remotely, look at that jump. That must be 2020. That's 2020 in the flesh. I only self-promo on Prime Stream. Yeah, shout out to TJ. It's okay. He'll teach. Yeah, the price he pays for promoting on my channel is that he has to teach me something. He has to teach me something new. Some graphic designers maybe want to become front-end developers. Yeah, it is cool seeing like that's true as well. There's a lot of kind of adjacent fields or titles, roles that like work very closely with developers or like someone who's in the tech space. So they might become interested in that through that through that dynamic as well. How did you initially find out about your current job? This is interesting. You guys, I just found out the other day. So like last year, I think I reposted a job listing and it turns out that someone from the community got hired for that job post. Like from me reposting it, they found out about it and they've been working there ever since. And that's like the most wholesome thing. I think that's the best thing I've ever done. That's like the most wholesome story ever. I didn't know until recently. And I was like, I almost cried. Okay, so how did you initially find out about your current job? Referral from a friend. I sought out the opportunity directly. An external recruiter. LinkedIn. I knew I wanted to work there. In-house recruiter, career fair. Twitter. I feel like Twitter, I thought it would be higher. Maybe in 2023, there weren't that many people looking for jobs that were influencers. I feel like I'd be more likely to get a job from Twitter than LinkedIn. Because the thing is like now I've got so much of my information is like private that I wouldn't put any of my education or anything on LinkedIn or like previous employment on LinkedIn because I don't want to dox myself. So like Twitter, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. I thought Twitter would be higher. That's my consensus there. How satisfied are you in your main job? This is really interesting to see this like arc here. People are just like mostly fairly satisfied. There's only a small percent, decently small percent that are completely satisfied. Very satisfied is pretty high. That's good. This makes me happy that people are mostly satisfied with where they work. Which aspects of your job are important to you? Good hours, also very important to me. Shout out to good hours. That's important. Huge. Huge. Good pay, also important. A job in which you feel like you can achieve something. An opportunity to take initiative. An opportunity to make the world better. Generous holidays, a responsible job. What does a responsible job mean? What makes a job responsible? Does that mean like structured? I'm not sure. I feel like this, where you feel you can achieve something I feel like a lot of these is startups. An opportunity to basically take initiative. That would be startup land. Make the world better. That's like startup land. I don't know. Maybe I don't understand big tech companies. There's a chance that I don't. I've only ever worked in like very small startups. Interestingly, women led men in valuing generous holidays and an opportunity to make the world better by 6% points. But they say good pay is important less often by 4% points. That's interesting. I could see that. I'd be willing to take less pay if it meant that I felt fulfillment in my day-to-day job. Like, being fulfilled to me is more important than like a slight difference in pay. Keyword slight. Okay. Kind of reinforces the pay gap though. Yeah. But I think that also speaks to, well, it's interesting because it's like that also speaks to like what the values are, like the difference in values. It's kind of interesting. I just think it's interesting. Interesting things to ponder, you guys. How does paid holidays policy work in Canada? I think there's a minimum amount of required paid holidays for like certain companies. I think a job that requires more effort than the usual because it's important. Yeah, that's fine. I feel like the worst thing for me is when it's boring. I just don't like being bored. Okay, what kind of professional development goals do you voluntarily set for yourself? Learning new programming languages and technologies, learning how to use development tools more effectively, developing my soft skills. It's nice to see this one higher up. Self-organization, self-discipline. These are two things that I'm trying. So like right now, I've got one more video that I have to publish on YouTube that I haven't published already. That is about kind of changing your mindset. So it's like more, it's again, more soft skill related and like discipline related alongside my latest video. Those two are just more like soft skill and like just self-discipline kind of stuff because it is such a huge part in your job and in being able to sustain, I think, being a knowledge worker. Because it's so hard when, like, it's, okay, let me restart. It's so much easier when what gets exhausted is like your physical body. When you're just physically exhausted, you're like, okay, I'm tired. It's time to lie down. I've done enough. When it's your brain, it's so easy to like convince yourself that like, oh no, I need to do more. I should be doing more right now. Like there's not such a hard shutdown, like an obvious cutoff, you know? So anyway, I think it's important that people are focusing on this stuff. So it's good. I was curious if it's similar to USA. Yeah, I'm not sure how the US works. I feel like a responsible job is one that feels adult, like mature and wise. For example, developing a learning game for K-12 education would be responsible, whereas freelance musician is perceived as not. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, it has a lot to do with values. If you pay me close to 7 figures a year, I'm okay working for an oil company at 70 hours a week for a bit while my coworkers tell crude jokes all day. Yeah, see, I don't think I could. I don't think I would. Unless there was like some external thing that required me to have that much money, I would rather live with less and do something and dedicate most of my life to working on something that matters to me than for the money. But if I, for example, had like, if I was trying to support someone who is like, I don't know, having to like pay medical bills or like something like that where the money would have where the money has like some kind of alternate meaning to me, then I would reconsider. No, I'm Canadian, so I'm not based in the US. Crude jokes at an oil company. Yeah, like but then again, that's also like that would add meaning. Sorry, I keep hitting my mic. That would add meaning to the work for me. So like at that point, it would still be like meaningful work. So I don't know. It's hard. It's interesting. Food for thought. There's a lot of food for thought with this survey. I think like it's really I think they did a pretty good job of like how well rounded it is. It's really interesting. What kind of professional development goals do you? Oh yeah, we were going over soft skills, self-organization, developing myself as a leader. I do not set such goals. Other is based. That's the 60 plus that are like, you know what? None of your business. My icons, my idols. I look up to them. This is really interesting to me how there's such a huge percentage that have a bachelor's degree. Secondary school, some college, university. Like, that's crazy. Highest level formal. I get, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to me. But I guess a lot of people shift from one bachelor's into tech. Like they'll learn to code or something. Anyway, I have a little blurb here that I wrote about this. Um, yeah, so it is interesting to me that it has such a high percentage. I can also, but I'm in the 19% category. So I've like partially completed a bachelor's degree, but didn't complete it. Um, it is interesting though, like that is how I got started in the field, was being introduced through the traditional computer science route. And nowadays I love books and documentation, but it's always great to pay someone else to kind of fine tune the scheduling and curriculum and everything for you, unless you find it super boring, in which case sitting through lectures is painful. One thing I feel is missing in the space would be almost a leaderboard where developers and their employers could rank various online courses, books, and other resources that could help guide others to valuable material. It's quite costly, both in terms of time and money, to continue advancing your skills. So, I guess my takeaway would be to choose what currency is most valuable, time or money, and decide on what platforms align best with you on that front. That was kind of my that's how I was thinking about it when I was kind of going back and forth between, you know, like basically when I was in my bachelor's and I was like, could I do this self-taught? It's like it's gonna cost you a lot more time to try and figure out direction and like what you need to learn if you're self-taught. Whereas if you go to school, you can just pay for someone else to give you all that structure. Um, Another thing that I lean on a lot is books. As I mentioned, I find them a lot less intimidating and easier to read technical books now than when I first tried. So keep that in mind, is like it might be hard for you right now to actually like sit down and read through a technical book. Part of it is learning how to, I think, break it down in a way that's more digestible for you. And part of it too is just being more familiar with the language that's being used. Like for me now, versus first year university, me reading a peer reviewed article was so like it's so much harder, right? Because it's like the first time you're having to do that stuff. Versus now, I'm like, I can read it. It reads it reads easily. So it's the same thing with technical books. It just takes like getting used to and not letting yourself get intimidated by whatever jargon they're using in the books, right? And same thing at school, right? It's just, for some people it's less intimidating because they've already been exposed to it. For some people it is intimidating because they haven't, right? It's just, a lot of it just has to do with experience. Okay, so the second point for why I love books, it's essentially getting mentorship from the author themselves, given that it's a compilation of their learnings provided to you in a digestible format that is entirely self-paced. If you're struggling to be consistent with reading books, my friend Madison, also a female software engineer, we love to see it. She has a coding book club that meets up on a regular basis, and I'll link that in the chat as well. All right. That's my friend Madison. She's awesome. She's awesome and cool, and she'll help you read books, okay? She'll help you get good at being a dev. Do it. Read books. This is where I'm like, okay, sometimes you don't need a mentor, you need a book, you know? If there's someone that you look up to in the space that has a book, read their book. Do it. All right. So which of the following educational institutions or resources allowed you to take your first step forward into becoming a developer? Formal educations. Next up, books. Next up, free online courses or code schools. Huge. I'd actually be curious. Okay, so one beef that I had with online courses and code schools, again, is just knowing which one's good quality, which one's not. Because sometimes these reviews they're from other beginners. They're like, yeah, thumbs up, great course, but like they don't know different. It's their first course that they've tried. So again, I think that someone, not me, needs to set up a leaderboard where developers and their employers can rank different online courses. Especially given the fact, like, why wouldn't you do this? Especially given the fact that a lot of companies provide you with a certain budget towards like learning and like skill development. Like they're already taking, like the employers already know what courses their employees are taking and what it's teaching them. So like it'd be great to have actual companies backing certain courses. That'd be huge. Yeah. I know. I took a Udemy course once and I was like, this is the worst. This was the biggest waste of money I've ever had. So yeah. That's what I think about that. Let's see. What else do I got? That was pretty much my summary on the learning side. We're already at 2:30. Let's you guys can continue reading as much as you want of this if you use the link there. That also shows them that I was the one who directed you to the survey. Okay. So use that link. Don't just Google it. Otherwise, you're plotting my demise. That's how I'll take it. Okay. If you don't use my link, you're plotting my demise, and I'm going to ban you. How do you feel about that? Get wrecked. Okay. Let's go into the job market because that's a spicy topic. Huge. All right. Jobs. Beep, beep, beep. Where are we? I can't read. I think it's because I'm staring into a bright light. Do you guys see jobs? Is it this one? Development? Don't sell it too hard. Sounds tempting that way. I know you're a mod, Judo, but I'll ban you. Just kidding. I would never. There's some people that can never go wrong. Oh, wait. Where am I? Development, mobile. Ooh, security. What tools do you use for secure development? IDE. What? I'm trying to find the jobs section. I think it might have actually been in the one we were just in. Jobs. Jobs. Lifestyles. Maybe it's in this one. Career. Oh, wait. How did you... Oh, right. This... education. I think there was a part about networking that I'm looking for. I saw you reading some letters in street on my TikTok. That's weird. I don't have TikTok. Who's out there profiting on my content, man? You guys better sick them. I'll sick my chat on you. Be afraid. They're all coders. Terrifying. Mental well-being. Oh, wait. Actually, I think I do have something on mental well-being. Yeah, this one I still gotta go through. I don't know how to search this thing. It's hard because they gave me a different, like, I reviewed it when it was like a doc, not a website. Oh. 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 None of these. Oh. Yeah, guys, hack the mainframe. Come on now. Just kidding. Don't, okay? They're going to sue me if I say anything. I'm telling you to hack anything. Don't hack anything on my behalf. I don't consent. Rip. Trying to find it. Me. Maybe it's demographics. Could be. Okay. Well, anyway, I'm looking for... Oh, I already went over some of that stuff and I just forgot to share what I actually thought about it. Okay, that's fine. We're going to go over the job market. We're going to talk about job market for a sec. All right. Let's go down to satisfaction. Do we have satisfaction in here? Salary. So many things. Okay, anyway, we're going to talk about the job market and networking. Okay, so the question was, how did you initially find out about your current job? And it was interesting to me, but it's not helpful if you guys can't see what I'm going to talk about. Lifestyle. Why did you choose? How did you find out about your job? How did you initially find out? Yeah, we found it. Nice, huge. Okay, let's zoom in. Okay, so this was really interesting to me that the referral from a friend is at 30%, and I sought out the opportunity directly is the next highest one. Most notably because that has also been my experience in the professional world. I've been recruited to jobs through word of mouth. And when I would be working somewhere that was hiring, they would always ask internal staff first if they knew someone who would be a good fit. I can understand why it's a much lower risk when you're using some referral of someone that you know. It's just, you just kind of like, there's a greater likelihood that they're going to fit in with the culture, is what I'm guessing. All right. It always ended up being the last case scenario. It always ended up being that the last case scenario would be to use a recruiter or posting a job advertisement. It seems that people were most successful with very targeted job opportunities that they were willing to put in the time to network to achieve. Noting that in this case, networking refers to them making an effort to get to know their future coworkers and more about the corporate environment of wherever they're considering working. So that's interesting to me. And then the job satisfaction was also interesting, this part. So it's interesting to note that the majority of the people that were answering this were fairly satisfied with their job. It makes me wonder what they wish could be improved about their job and how their region might impact what some of those changes are. For example, if people are feeling like they are not having enough of an impact on the company as a whole, then maybe it would be more fulfilling for them to work towards becoming an open source maintainer of a tool that they know and love. Like, how much of your satisfaction has to come from your job versus, and like maybe there's different initiatives that your jobs could have that could help bring you closer to, I don't know, like meeting those needs of yours. And maybe if it comes down to like not having enough perks, for example, in my case, like extra health benefits are a non-negotiable. I want dental and vision and everything covered by the company, which is usually the case at most companies, I think. If you're a full-time employee, they'll give you coverage for dental and vision, and all of that is very common in Canada. If it wasn't offered off the bat, I would recommend making a case for it with your employer if they're able to get, because they can get like tax deductions, recruit, retain more talent, among other things if they do choose to offer that. So like trying also to like advocate for things that you need that could, and showing how they can benefit the company is really valuable. So I'm not sure if like, yeah, it kind of surprises me that so many people are just like fairly satisfied. So I'm curious as to like what specifically it is that they're finding is like keeping them from being fully satisfied. Maybe it's even just the stack that they work with, you know? Yeah, and then even if they don't have the budget for like whatever it is, like if you're trying to get a pay raise or you're trying to get them to give you benefits or whatever, if they don't have the budget for that, then like there's ways that you can negotiate given your other values of what's important to you. So for example, this might be like more flexibility in your schedule or like whatever. Maybe it would even make more sense for you to be employed on like a contract basis, given the fact that they aren't giving any like major perks to their full-time employees compared to contractors. In that case, you'd have more control of your schedule and even your salary. And usually if you are working as a contractor, you have to charge a bit of a premium because you're self-employed at that point, and you need to account for taxes, like tax deductions in like your hourly cost. And you can also charge more because you're giving them a certain amount of like power, given the fact that you are on a contractual basis, you have less like powers than if you were a full-time employee. So anyway, it's good to look into like workers' rights and see what ways you can negotiate with a potential employer if they aren't willing to budge on some of these other ones. But I just wanted to mention that because company satisfaction, job satisfaction is really important. So, yeah. Dude, I hate that. That's happened to me before too, Beast Co. We don't have enough money to give you a raise, but if you quit, we'll pay the next person more money than what you asked for. Yeah, actually, I had that happen to me where I had trained someone, and the person that I trained got paid more than me. But I was young. I was younger at the time. I didn't. I think I just didn't. I didn't ask for a raise. Like I didn't know. I didn't know to ask for a raise. So they were making like decent amount more than me while I was training them. It was awful. It was it was also a girl, but it was in a female dominated industry at that time. It was sad though, cause like I didn't know until I was, until I was like leaving or until I don't know, something happened and I saw that there was like a big discrepancy in the pay. Like again, I was young at the time. So I think I was making like $12 an hour and they were making like 16. And I was training them and I'd been there a lot longer, but I had never, it was before I knew to ask for raises or anything, or like when, I don't know, like acknowledging when your responsibilities change and you should be worth more. It was crazy. I was making 16 and they were making 25. Yeah, it's such a knife to the back, honestly. Yeah, I quit very shortly after that. It just made me lose all respect for the owners, for them. It felt like they went over my head. Like it was really, it's not a good experience when places do that. Okay, I think is it general development, lifestyles? Is it still lifestyles? I think it's education. Oh, maybe it's health and wellness. So it is lifestyles, I think. Yes. Okay. So now let's go into the health and wellness. So mental well-being. Okay. So sadly, almost 3/4 of our respondents have experienced burnout at some point in their careers. This is again what I was saying. It's really hard when it's your brain that is deciding, like it's the one that you're meant to be like tiring out by the end of the day. Right? Like it's so hard to tell yourself that like, oh, I've done enough today. Like your brain's like, oh, I kind of still work. You could still use me. It's really good at like gaslighting you. So just be mindful. Don't burn yourself out. Or sometimes it's kind of inevitable. Like you don't realize that you have that limit until you've maxed out that limit. And then you start to realize what those signs are of burnout. I think it took me burning out like 3 times before I really clued into what the early signs of burnout look like for me. So sometimes it's just something you just got to go through in order to be able to prevent it in the future, unfortunately. Do you take care of your mental health? Mostly no. Okay. Checks out. Bunch of developers, a little unstable. Okay. I use psychological techniques and practices on my own. Yes, I visit a therapist. That's a very small percentage, actually. That's more than there are women. So proud of you, 9%. Take prescribed medications, nice. Take over-the-counter medications, nice. Wow, okay. So like, it's a decent amount of people that are doing stuff. That's great. Give me 1 sec. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. How to avoid burnout? Drink more coffee. Actually, I drank myself sick of jasmine tea yesterday. Do you guys know that? I told the early birds today. I told them, but like PSA, don't drink a liter of jasmine tea. it changes the acidity of your stomach and gives you really bad stomach ache. So, fun fact. Okay, have you ever experienced burnout? 73% yes. Yep. Been there. Been there. How familiar are you with the concept of mental health? Well, only I'm actively interested in this topic. I'm vaguely aware of it. I don't know about it, but I'm not interested in the topic. I've never heard of it. Fair. I mean, teach their own. 47% of those familiar with burnout use self-monitoring apps or devices to track their physical activity, sleep quality, and other health parameters. I used to do that, and then everywhere started wanting to sell your data, and then I stopped because they sell all of that data to who knows who. It's crazy. So yeah, so that's nuts. Do you actively use any self-monitoring apps, devices? Yeah, I'm with the 55%. I don't track my physical activity, sleep quality, health, etc. Just because now they do so much weird stuff with it. I don't trust anyone. I don't trust anyone. I would also like to talk about burnout relating to self-organization and time management. It's interesting because I think it's really easy to underestimate how much we're affected by decision fatigue. I've spoken about this quite a bit, I think. At least I've heard myself talk about it a lot, so I actually don't know how much I've mentioned about it on stream. But yeah, it's easier to underestimate how much we're affected by decision fatigue. This is also part of why I like to treat myself like I'm both a student and a teacher, which means that I will assign myself work to do in my calendar/agenda, so that I don't have to think about it when it comes time to do the actual work. It helps a lot to simplify the logistics of getting tasks done. I also think it helps you figure out what is a manageable amount of stuff to do in a day is when you've got it actually like mapped out, given times in your calendar. It can make it a little bit better for you. So that's one of the ways that I try and like prevent burnout. Burnout for me is the easiest way for me to beeline to burnout is by doing way too many context switches and trying to make a bunch of decisions and then also take action on things. So I try and have like decision days and then action days so that I'm basically like I can just sit down and just do things and not think about it. It's so important for me to get into that state. It's so much easier. You have so much more energy than if you're trying to make a bunch of really important decisions while you're going through solving a tough task. Yeah, that's huge. Something else that's related and very precious is our attention. We're constantly in the middle of companies fighting to keep our attention on their products for as long as possible. And as knowledge workers, we have to protect our attention span. I mentioned this in the previous video that I posted, but like, what if you were helping a kid learn something new and someone came in to interrupt the lesson? Would you allow these interruptions, or would you ask them to wait until the lesson was over to protect the kid's attention and learning outcomes? I'd imagine you would do what you could to minimize distractions and make it as easy as possible for them to learn this concept or solve their problem. As an adult, you're now the one that has to protect your own attention in the same way so you can achieve the outcomes that you're striving for. Again, this is almost the exact same as the video that I just did, but I tend to use the Pomodoro technique as a way to support my attention. So nothing gets my attention for like anywhere from 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour. Nothing else gets my attention. It's only focused on the task at hand. And then when I'm on break, then I can check all my messages, get whatever other interruptions would have been during that window. They're now just postponed until I'm done working on that problem or working on that, or like learning that new thing, right? This is tech, and to me, I don't think there's usually anything that can happen within 30 minutes that needs to be addressed like now. Yeah, and if it's really urgent, they can always call me, right? I think that we tend to spread ourselves thin by trying to indulge every little thing that attracts our attention, and in that case, we're just playing a losing game. I wanted to find there's another point here as well about, I think, just fun. Where is it? Not here yet. There's one about fun that I want to talk about. Which of the following increases your daily productivity? So this is kind of funny how they're talking about learning to use my IDE more effectively. So, and even upgrading my IDE's functionality. Like, it's so funny to me to see these IDE related tasks here, like your points here, that are so high up in what increases your daily coding productivity. And this kind of relates to what I was talking about in my NeoVim talk that I did last year. Not last year, like 2023, but 2022. I think that tinkering, that sounds like an issue for juniors more. That's interesting. I don't know. I think I'll talk about it in terms of like NeoVim, because it's something that I started learning it because I knew I'd be able to grow with it and be able to optimize my development environment and my almost like my habits. They'll be able to grow with me as a developer. So I thought that was really cool that my developer environment would be able to grow with me. And I think this also speaks to how tinkering with your just like development environment is just a very like fun and lighthearted activity that can lend itself to feeling really satisfied and therefore boost your productivity. Again, as I mentioned, I spoke about a very similar phenomenon in my NeoVim talk last year. Often the hardest part is just sitting down and getting started, especially when you know that you've got a really tough problem ahead of you. So just getting anything that can get you to like sit down and be in your development environment with like the lowest bar possible, I think is always going to be a benefit. It gives you something to focus on that is less scary than whatever that really difficult problem is. And of course, the more experience that you get, the more options you have to build momentum, because you'll have a lot of these like lower bar activities that can kind of just get you started. So maybe it'll be, reviewing someone's PR, and then you move on to whatever feature you're developing. Of course, yeah, that's not to say that like you're only ever going to work on things that you think are fun, but it does help to have something that you think is fun or that's a little more lighthearted to just like allow yourself to build some momentum. So that's one of my tricks to prevent myself from burning out, because I do find that if I push it back against myself a lot, that it starts to like really make me dread the task, and I start to like really resist doing it. It makes it way worse than if I were to just do something a little easier for a bit. I don't know if reviewing PRs is the lowest blood pressure thing you could do in the morning. Some of them are pretty easy. Some of them are pretty easy. Like if I'm reviewing PRs, I mean, first thing that I'm doing is I can at least validate that it works. I can test it locally and just check it out and see all these new features and like, okay, checking off the boxes of what they say changed, and like, okay, does that match up with what I'm seeing? So I don't know. I think it depends on just starting with something that is easier is pretty helpful. Oh, this is interesting. Actually, speaking of how you start your day, when I start my workday, the first thing I open is work chats. Same. Work chats, and then very closely behind IDE/another dev tool, mailbox, calendar. This is actually, I think, the exact order of what I open as well. I am still using i3 Window Manager. Yeah, I love it. Work chat, IDE, mailbox, calendar, news outlet. I don't read the news. Refrigerator or cupboard. Yeah, I've already did that usually. YouTube, actually true. I use YouTube Music, so usually that's pretty good. Oh my God, I hate that there's all the social media on here. You guys, stop it. That's so bad. No TikTok. In 2024, I want to see this at 0%. Or you're banned. Yeah, mine would actually, I think I do often open work chats as soon as I get up, because I'm the furthest behind time zone wise. So like they've already been working on stuff and going back and forth usually. Okay, how much of your working time do you spend in meetings and work related chats? 10 to 20%. That seems pretty high. 20%? Oh, but I guess that's fair. A lot of places have a lot more meetings than I'm used to. I feel like meetings really need to be on an as needed basis. A streamer telling us not to use social media. No, I'm actually like the most anti-social media content creator ever. I pretty much am only on Twitch and YouTube and occasionally and like Twitter. these days. That is low on a big corp. Yeah, I know. I think people really abuse meeting hours. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people get stuck in meetings for days. How much of your working time do you spend on code related activity? 61 to 70%. That's really high. I've also heard the more you go up the ladder, the less time you get coding, which is sad. Makes me want to stay as like low pressure, low expectation, just writes code all day. That's the goal. That's the goal. I also like that you call it Twitter. Yeah, it's Twitter. That's what it is. I'm just real. That's why. While working, how often do you find yourself in a state of focused concentration that prevents you from noticing what's happening around you and how much time has passed? I'd say often, or probably very often. Dude, this is why I have to meal prep. This is why things have to be like in my calendar. I have to get like notified of things. I need like little pings during the day because otherwise I just zero in, man. When my IDE freezes, I think to myself, just let me take a break and wait for it to unfreeze. Yeah, fair. Oops, did I do something wrong? How can I fix it? Imagine blaming yourself for your IDE freezing. That's so funny. That's such an interesting question. Do you code on weekends? Yes, for fun. Yes, for work. Actually, who's guilty of this? I feel like a lot of people are guilty of that. It's basically my time notification system. That's really good. That's nice. Which devices do you use for development? Laptop, desktop, smartphone, tablet. Bunch of animals. I asked my most junior engineer to write less and do more code reviews and or mentoring around those reviews. Sucks for them, but like, it just makes sense that you would want to, you'd want your other staff to become more effective in the long run. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess like the thing is too, I guess when you are a certain level of like competent, it's also easier for you to like build your own stuff outside of work as well. Like it doesn't take as much of a time investment maybe. So I don't know. Wow. The tiling window manager gang. Rise up. I guess these are all the laptop users as well. Wait. A lot of people use 2. I don't know. I like my one big boy. It's great. 8 gigs to 16 gigs is crazy. I could only do 16. 16 gigs is like my minimum. And I barely care. I barely have any tabs open. This is the most tabs I've had open in a long time. I usually don't have that many tabs open. Where do you get IT news? Social media? Terrifying. YouTube? Uh-oh. IT focused websites? What websites? Tutorials, news, trends, reports, white papers, thought leadership. I don't know what these 2 are. I'm not enough of a normie, maybe. Hacker News? What are you doing with your RAM? What? I feel like these days a browser will use like 4 gigs of RAM. I just let it sit there untouched. I just let it live its life. Lax. Do you actively use accounts on the following websites? GitHub, Twitter, LinkedIn, Stack Overflow. Wow, a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of people on LinkedIn. Equal amounts. I could see that though. The tech Twitter space is huge. Medium, I don't like Medium. I like Dev.to better. Twitch? Ooh, Twitch gang, rise up. How many of you, who did this? Who did this? Facebook, yuck. Instagram, yuck. Okay. All right, you guys. I think that's it. I think that's all I have in me. So it's supposed to be an hour. It's almost 3 hours. It's 3 hours. Whoopsies. That's okay. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you can click the link, then they know that you checked it out and that you thought, wow, Bash is so smart and wonderful that I had to check out what she was telling us about that JetBrains is sponsoring her for. That's huge. Thank you, JetBrains, for sponsoring this stream. I'll be doing a more concise video reacting to the developer ecosystem on my YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube already, you should. That's the one thing that you're allowed to watch. I told you no social media, but you're allowed to watch my YouTube channel. I'm going to force you to learn some stuff and improve as a human being. How do you feel about that? It'll be great. You'll love it. You'll love it. Okay, so click the link. Get in there so that they know how many people are paying attention. Wait, is Prime live again? Oh, man. All right, well, we can raid Prime because we were just chatting with him. Yeah. I don't wanna. Yeah, you're gonna get banned. JK. Yeah, he really needs it. Yeah, I'm biased. Actually, yeah. Blip. I haven't rated Prime in a long time. Where link? Okay, here. I'll post the link one more time. Sponsor. Everyone click the link, okay? jb.gg/bashbunny. Development is a scam. We've already been replaced by AI. If you don't even accept it. Oh no. Oh no. Thank you guys so much for supporting. I really appreciate it. I appreciate Green. Thank you for the Prime sub. Thank you for all of the subs and the raids and the support during this stream. This was my first sponsored stream in a while. I might do some more sponsored streams this year. I think it'd be nice. I want to just try and do more with my platform in general. Just have it again, contribute back to society in some kind of good way. I think that'd be huge. So yeah, your guys' presence in the sponsored streams is really huge. It lets companies know that they should keep sponsoring me. I will continue to be really picky about who I sponsor or who sponsors me and the kind of content that we're doing. I will continue to have full autonomy on the content and what I present and my opinions. So that won't be changing, but it would be cool to just expand this a little bit more and see what we can do. I think that'd be sick. And if you guys want free licenses for anything, let me know in the Discord and I can see about setting y'all up, okay? Let me know, because apparently I might have the power to do that. Yeah. All right, you guys, go hang out with the Prime. We'll see you later. Laters. I actually don't know if it worked. I never know if it worked. Mute tab. Wow. Okay, cool. He's coding. Yeah, thank you, YouTube. Thanks for hanging out. Ew, why would I want to improve? Yuck. Self-development? Yuck. I should talk to you guys for a sec because you poor things have been neglected this whole time. I'm going to read through the chat and see what happened. Not a framework, but GoKit has a cool ideology. Okay, good to know, good to know. Do you go live every day? When I can, yeah. When I'm at my setup, I will. But sometimes I like to code on the couch, so I don't go live. Also, there's very bright lights that I have to put in front of me, so sometimes it hurts my eyes. Sometimes I want to be able to look outside and enjoy the great outdoors. And in those cases, I don't stream. But I like streaming. It's fun hanging out with you guys. Probably no AI assistant for coding stuff. Ooh, that's spicy. I'm not going to read that. I had a bad experience using AI inside VS Code, too. Interesting. Is this Linux? It's Pop! OS, yeah. I have it dual booted for gaming, but I barely use my Windows boot. In the UK, it can be more profitable to work for a company in the UK because they can produce software for the US. Oh, I see. Which headphones? These are the QC45s. I will eventually get my review video done. I lost all the edited footage, but I'm hoping that I can remap the footage to my edits and then it might still work. Fingers crossed. Maybe. Ooh, what does it mean to have a mentor? I think just someone that can guide you. When you have questions, you can ask them questions. When you express interest in hey, I might be interested in learning to code or in cybersecurity or in web development, they can kind of give you some direction. Not to say that it's their full-time job, but they can give you little tasks along the way that that might help you on your journey. To be honest, there's a ton of fights in IT teams a lot. So it is generally a hostile environment. Yeah, some people really come in with egos ablazing. So this is all part of why mindset is so important. This is why I've been trying to, this is why I've been trying to come out with some videos to, I don't know, help people if that's something they struggle with. The mindset stuff. Why do you think women choose not to pursue tech education? I don't know if there's a ton of awareness on what is included in the tech education. I think that people are interested in it. I also do think that like traditional academia is a very intimidating pursuit. Like the computer science fields are, it's all guys. One of the worst things too is like I distinctly remember this. It took a while for me to find like another wholesome developer that would help me, but like it was kind of gross because like usually the first guys to approach me in those classes, they're like, "Oh, don't worry, I can teach you how to code. Just go on a date with me." You're like, "Bro, I'm just here to learn Python. Please don't be weird." So like, I don't know. I think it's like not great first impressions maybe. I don't think it's necessarily a lack of interest. I think it's maybe just like a lack of awareness of like what opportunities are available there. Yeah, also it's just not as common. Like not that many women want to have teams full of men. Like they want to enjoy other women and like all of that. And I think there can be a big divide given if they're more feminine versus more masculine, like just in their hobbies and stuff like that. Like that can have a big impact as well on like how well they're like how much they're included or not in their in the social settings. Yeah, kind of interesting. It's an interesting topic. I gotta say. Try mate. I drink it all day. Ooh, I gotta try mate. I have not tried that yet. I once trained someone who is actively earning the same amount as me, which is pretty tilting. Yeah, I know. It's so annoying when they don't. Like, you shouldn't have to be the one to ask for a raise when you're training someone. Like, be like, hey, I really appreciate your hard work. I really appreciate your outputs enough to have you train a new employee. Given the fact that you're taking on more responsibilities, how about we give you like an extra $2 an hour or like whatever? Like, it doesn't have to be crazy. Anyway, crazy. The egos are nuts in IT. I used to work in IT academia, almost lost it on. The egos are really intense, especially in university. Like, it's all a bunch of young guys that are like trying to show each other up, and it's just not the vibe for the girls. But even in my, like the other women that were in my, like, I guess girls, we were so young. The other girls that were in my tech classes, like, it was awesome to have them there, but they also like we weren't going to be friends just because we're chicks. You know what I mean? Like they had a very different like kind of sense of humor. I think they were already friends or something like that. So like I was not, this is like me being one of 3 girls in the big class, right? So it's just a little different. Some men also need training in the field. Sometimes people just don't know how to be friends with the opposite sex. I think it's a big difference too. If like me, I've got a pretty like, I guess, masculine set of interests. Like I've always been very athletic and like I like video games and like I've always been a bit of a tomboy. So it makes it easier for me to be able to hang out with guys because I've always had like guy friends. But like for girls that are a little bit more girly, like it's a lot harder for them to relate and to be accepted in these groups. Like it's not the same. It's very different. I was actually reading a book on that and I lost the book and I got to find it so that I can learn more. But that's an interesting problem there. Okay, we're all caught up. I'm a software engineer. I had to do a lot of heavy lifting to train the new senior engineers on our team. Yeah, training is hard. It's like, it drives me nuts that people like wouldn't be given the credit where it's due. I don't know. I just think a lot of employers have room for improvement. They need my videos. They need to self-reflect, That's what they need. All right, you guys. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for supporting the sponsored stream. If you're not subscribed, it'd be awesome if you could. If not, I'm not here to tell you how to live your life, okay? Do what you want. There will be a more concise version of this, of like my conclusions with the developer ecosystem report that'll be coming out. So Yeah, look forward to that. But otherwise, it was really fun having this kind of discourse. And I hope you guys are enjoying the live streams. It's been fun streaming on YouTube and Twitch. I know you guys get neglected most of the time, but it's kind of TOS. It's kind of what I sign up for on Twitch. So I'll see you guys next time.